Keep spawning culture. Hey y'all, it's Andrew Reed with the MushRune Cast. It's a Happy New Year, fellas and gals, guys and gals. Samantha is not here. This was a planned thing. She will be joining us shortly, but she's grabbing me some coffee to perk me up a little bit. As you all know, my ADD requires the caffeine. So it's a pleasure being with you guys on the second day of the new year. It was a really strange experience for me, 3 days ago, doing production and writing day 366 of 24 down. But that's when I remembered that it was a leap year. So glad to have you guys with us. Let's see, we got the Aussie. What's up? Oh, that's me. Dr. Salamander's Lab. I like the name. Exception to the rule. Et situa. Fungal Rancher. I did not mix those beats. No. I did add the keep spawning culture bits to it. So that aspect was me. That was me just kind of playing around with keep spawning culture and then getting into DaVinci Resolve and playing with the modulation and whatnot. So I did do that. I'm planning on doing some more of that so that song actually has some lyrics to it, but I have not done that yet. Black Flag. What's up, Dan? Happy New Year, Steven. I'm sure I'm glad to have y'all with us. It's going to be hopefully a good show. We're going to talk about some priorities, some things that I do at the beginning of the year. We're going to talk a little bit about cycles. There's something that we're going to go over our life priorities thing. I just brought mine out as an example. Samantha doesn't even know we're going to talk about that yet, but she'll know exactly what I'm discussing. It's something that a friend of ours brought to us where about once a quarter, we go through and redo what we call our life priorities. So, and it's a quarterly thing. What's up, Hendrix? Keep spawning culture, y'all. And Dan says, Happy New Year, everyone. We're these life priority things help us to kind of set our goals. And then, of course, we try to be kind to ourselves on this, but we like to set goals and then try to meet them and let those things, we have like a min-max that we do. That we'll get into all of that later, but it's basically just a seasonal and yearly life realigning, we'll call it. And then we use that to set some reasonable goals. So I'm just starting liquid culture. Do you have a video on what healthy and contaminated look like? Michelle, I certainly have lots of footage of that. If you check out pretty much any of my liquid culture videos, I think one of the first ones I ever did, I show you guys kind of what it looks like. But clean liquid culture ought to look clearish. You should be able to see through it. I like mine to look, very amber colored. So beyond the amber coloration, you should be able to see through it and see the mycelium. If it looks milky, then it's probably bacterial. That's not always the case, What we like to do most of all is use our noses. So we're constantly around here saying the nose knows. That's not a new saying or unique to me, but the sniff test will tell you more about your liquid culture usually than a visual inspection will. So we do part of our quality control. Like when we're pulling a batch, we'll pull the first syringe, a middle syringe, and the last syringe, and those all three get tested. They get tested on plate. They go to empty petri dishes where we then kind of stir it up a little bit and then smell it. And the mycelium every mushroom has its own distinct smell, even down to the strain. But you've got some general guidelines. Like I feel like hericiums smell kind of bleachy. Oysters kind of have an anise scent, a sweet scent a lot of times. It's not always the case, but oftentimes they're very sweet smelling. Shiitake smells mealy, I guess would be the word to put that. Like if mealy has a smell, that's the way I would smell it. But I don't know, shiitake to me, any way I would describe it, I think sounds bad. Like it smells bad, but it is pleasing to the nose, if that makes sense. But like, I'll put it to you this way. If it smells like a pizzeria or a brewery, you typically have a yeast contamination. If it smells like a dirty diaper or really funky or just downright unpleasant, that's usually a bacterial infection. Mold contaminations ought to be, not bacterial infection, bacterial contaminant. Mold contamination should be pretty apparent. You can, like that test of your liquid culture, that'll show up. The mold mycelium will grow way faster than my typical macro mycelium will, and it'll sporulate. So the sporulation will change color, and so if you get a color change on the mycelium, that is usually a clear telltale sign. So liquid culture, oftentimes visual inspection is just not enough. You'll have stuff that looks perfectly clean, and then you'll have stuff that looks perfectly dirty, and they'll surprise you either way. So thank you. Oh, they didn't put the collars on it this time, huh?
I took them off.
Oh, thank you. What'd you get a cup of over there?
This is lotion from the sweet lady at the bank.
Oh, lotion. Okay, I thought.
It's a gift from me. She knows that I'm a farmer.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, Michelle, that's the big thing for me, really, is that your nose knows a lot better on liquid culture than a visual inspection will. And then, of course, your plate test. And then what we like to do, like I said, is pull the first, middle, and third and last syringe for 3 syringes to test. And then that way we test which parts of the process. So that way if something goes wrong during it, we can kind of tell where it went wrong, where we messed up. We almost never have anything in the middle or the beginning or even the end. Most of the time, our RLC comes up pretty good these days. But the quality control is still important. And so we test that out, and I like to test it to a little bit of agar, a little bit of grain, and then, of course, the sniff test, like I said.
Well, it's nice, too, to have multiple batches of multiple mediums so that you know if it's the LC or if it's the medium that you... And if one is bad on, like, the agar plate or whatever, then but it's good on the other stuff. It's all a detective game. It's like Clue on steroids.
Oh, yeah. Happy New Year from Micro Ag in South Texas. Well, hello, Culver.
Happy New Year.
What's that? Shit gets heavy, man. Adapt, improve, and overcome. As the new year, huh? Big up exception 2.
Also, the fig tree is doing really well. We were surprised.
I put it out in the warehouse. I've not planted it yet. But now that we're getting a freeze, like it dropped its leaves slowly, the last remaining ones. I thought the warehouse would be plenty cold, but would give it a gentle come down. So as far as I can tell, the fig's still very much alive. And thank you for that. Hey, I'm building the PVC and 2x4 shelves. How deep do you like to build them, and how much headspace between each shelf? Samantha, do you want to go get a measurement on those? You know what I'm talking about?
The depth and height?
The depth and height of the, like how far apart are, and then do the inside to inside. You know what I'm talking about? You have a 2x4 here and a 2x4 here, and you're going to measure from the inside to the inside. You're just going to measure the empty space.
Okay.
So you know how far to space them, and then how tall, the PVC, what they are away from each other, height wise. We'll get that for you, Fungal Rancher. Just starting with portobello and no spore mushroom. We'll rewind the video and write it down. Yeah, please do. Portobello, I don't know the smell on. I don't know portobello very well at all. The no spore oyster ought to smell like oyster. I always had really poor results with that no spore. It just never did fruit as well as I would like for it to have. And it's still spored. It was just a little less of it. But portobello would be one I think that's wise for people to try. I'm glad to hear. I was concerned with the shipping. Yeah, the fig showed up. I mean, it didn't look like it traveled too roughly. You can come to Arizona. Mushrooms love it here. It's been a warm winter at 74 degrees in the day. Yeah, I miss Arizona, New Mexico area. I miss the desert. It's been a long time since I've been to the desert, and I've been reading Dune, so that makes you miss the desert a little bit more. Even though I think that he wrote that at the Californian dunes up against the coast. But anyways, I miss the deep desert. The painted desert, the petrified forest. I'd love to go back to all that stuff. I'd love to go back to the cliff dwellings. Bags on the center shelf, bottom right of sign, colonized, top only. Have you found this to cause yield issues? When it happens to me, if I let it colonize, pinning a bag if open early, small yield. We'll just fruit it on schedule. So how all of these ones, right? Yep, okay. All of these right here, that may have been a mentorship shake. That could have been someone who came in and volunteered while I was sick shaking. But you can see these and then that one. All of those are, but the rest of these down here are all growing in on the bottom and stuff. And so it's just, they didn't get shaken as well. Stuff just stayed at the top. So what's going to happen with that is we'll fruit it on schedule and we'll just cut the hole like right there where the white is, which I mean, it'll be a little bit further down by the time it's on schedule, but we'll cut it there, let it fruit, and then it'll continue growing in. And then on the second flush, it will go ahead and get, you don't get as much on your first flush doing it that way, but your second flushes are bigger. So unless you're only doing a one and done, that's not really a problem. Most problems in mushroom culture are not problems. There's a few that are problems. Contamination is a problem, but anything as far as like bag growth or, I don't know, just that kind of stuff, the scheduling stuff, that's all pretty easy to deal with. Oh my gosh, lattes, you guys. Lattes are the best. Love my latte. Got it, thanks. Happens to me 1 in 20-ish bags. I need to shake better than... I mean, you do and you don't. One thing about it is, sure, shake better, but don't spend too much time on it. Like, how much time would it really take? Like, who knows? Maybe that bag was a vacuum packed bag, right? Like, it was one of those that didn't have air and didn't want to shake well. It's better to just go, oh, crap, that one didn't get shaken as well. Just move on. How much effort it's going to really take to fix that 1 in 20 bags versus just letting it go. Where'd you write this?
Does that make sense? It's right here.
Oh, it's in pencil. Oh my gosh.
Well,
Is that a 0 or an 8? Or
my handwriting's neater than yours.
I know, but what is that symbol?
8 3/4.
That is an 8. Okay. 8 3/4.
Aw.
What?
It's okay.
What?
I wrote it in pencil so I could erase it. Because that's our daughter's school program that I was going to save.
Well, I've got a stack of...
It'll just have career measurements on it.
Well, I've got one too, so you can use mine. All right, so the 2x4s, the Fungal Rancher, the 2x4s are spaced 4 inches inside seam to inside seam. What's this 10 3/4?
So that's from the outside. That's the inside.
Okay, so the outside measurements from outside of the 2x4 to the outside of the 2x4, measuring across the gap, and both 2x4s is 10 inches and 3/4, whereas the inner gap is a 4-inch gap. I think I'm understanding how you've got this now. So,
and the 4 little circles.
I see that I got it.
Okay.
So the PVC is from one PVC shelf to the next is 8 inches 3/4. Is that center to center or outer to outer, inner to inner?
Inner to inner.
Inner to inner. So inner seam of the PVC to the inner seam, and then same on the gap between them, front to back, is 6 inches.
I think that was a 1-inch round, right? So the circumference of that, like if
the
you just
PVC? No, the PVC is 3/4 inch.
Okay.
So that should get you your measurements there, Fungal Rancher. I hope that does it for you. Did you go from a hobby to a business? And how did you start selling? Etsy, eBay, farmers market, etc. Michelle, we started.
Actually, it was you first.
It was me first. I'm just trying to include you.
It was your idea.
It wasn't it was my idea in our family for sure. Okay. Lost my job, started bouncing around, got a factory job after 3 or 4 factory jobs that kept falling through. I'd get a job for like 3 months. Excuse me.
Gracious. And like a lot of people had the same issue back in 2008.
2009, yeah.
Where you would go to college and you would graduate or whatever, and you couldn't even find a job in your field, or like if you came out of trade school, sometimes you would work a little bit with what you had, and you would finish a project, and then you'd get laid off, receive a Pell Grant to go back to school, and then go work something else. It's just kind of you did what you had to.
Yeah. Well, we definitely. How I'm sure people remember how things were back then, but after the crisis happened, they bailed out the banks, but then the economy didn't really take a hit until a year or two later. So 2009, really, 2009, 2010, I was bouncing from job to job. I'd get onto a contract, but then the contract would end in 3 months, and then there would be no more contracts. And so it's back on food stamps. Then it'd be, okay, you get a job, you get a good paying factory job. Oh, they closed down. Walmart canceled their order, or so-and-so canceled their order, or et cetera, et cetera. And then Samantha and I went back to school for a short time, did 1 semester. I think I didn't even finish that semester. But this was, was that after Riches? No, Riches was after Sustainable Aquatics. Okay, so yeah, that's what happened. Is I went to school and I was thinking about majoring in entomology or myrmecology, insects. The whole point is, eventually I got into mushrooms. I started growing those, and then I started working. Samantha and I started working. Started growing mushrooms at home. I went and worked at Sustainable Aquatics. Was growing mushrooms at home just for fun. After college, and then went to. From Sustainable Aquatics, worked there for a year and a half. We went to Riches.
Yeah, we
got on the Walmart Tort line.
Yeah.
And then, cake decorating first, and then Walmart Tort, and then that got canceled. And then they put me on a line where I had to deal with carrot cake. And that's when I found out that I am horrendously allergic to walnuts. I dumped a box of walnuts into the mixer, and the dust blew back in my face, and I basically went into anaphylaxis right then. And they were going to call an ambulance and all that kind of stuff, but I managed to get through it. And then Samantha just came to me. They were not going to move me off the line. And Samantha said, how about, she's like, we make enough money here. How about you just stay home? You're already growing mushrooms. You're already I started raising chickens and ducks and geese and rabbits, and I had a garden going and all that kind of stuff. And so I did stay at home dad, because we were paying, Samantha's like, we're paying a ton of money to have 3 kids in daycare. She's like, we're basically paying one of our paychecks. She's like, I'll cover this. I'll be the breadwinner, you go home, be a stay-at-home dad, which in my family was a big no-no back in the day. And started being kind of a stay-at-home dad, but of course I wanted to provide, so I started growing all this stuff and fixing meals. And man, we ate high on the hog back then. Oh my goodness, I eat better back then than I do now, and I had far less money to show for it. But the mushrooms became a big part of that. Like we started just growing mushrooms regularly, and then people found out. I started selling them. Next thing you know, people are starting to pay me for them. And then we went to farmers markets, and then through the farmers markets, we met chefs, and we went to restaurants. And then once we grew to a certain point where we had a number of chefs, we hired on a couple part-time people, and then went into full-bore restaurants and quit the market because it was just too much to not have a weekend. You know, you got your kids, they're at school, or you're trying to homeschool, so you don't have your weekend anymore either. It was just a really hard way to go. So we went full restaurants. And then from there to what we do now, which I started breeding mushrooms. Breeding stuff is something I've done my entire life. So that's how I got
horribly simplistic version of all of that.
It is, but it's also I feel like I'm going on and on and on, and I'm trying to give you guys a truncated version, but all that's very, very simplistic for sure. So eventually, as I started growing, I realized I was going to have to grow bigger. I didn't have enough space where I was at. So I went to a couple of friends, sold them, like created the company, but then gave them a little bit of the company for an investment. And here we are. That's a 423 number. Here, do you want to take this? It's probably the bank. Never know. I always am careful when it comes to bank numbers because you never know. As much as we buy and sell, and of course we buy internationally things as well. So, you know, we always try to make sure I watch those cards. Happy New Year, Jacob. About that by that. I'm not sure what that means. You're very welcome, Fungal Rancher. And then Samantha, who's not here now, said she was excited for 2025, which I am so excited about this year, guys. This is, oh my gosh. The things I'm going to do this year. The foundation stones of the empire are being laid. Are you guys selling cultures in the UK at all? If so, how do I get my grubby mitts on them? You should be able to just go to our website and order, Dan. So, and we're definitely selling to the UK. We're selling to and shipping straight to the UK, Europe, Africa, Israel, South America. I even shipped some. Yeah, we shipped some to Mongolia and the Philippines. So I'm shipping all over the world place nowadays. What is a reasonable weekly yield goal for a 4 foot by 8 foot by 7 foot grow room? So 4 times 8 times 7. Am I right? And that's 112. Okay, so 112 cubic feet. And then we do, if you break it in, okay, a 4 foot by 8 foot by 7. So, okay, a 4 by 8. So it's about the size of like a sheet of plywood, right? About 7 foot tall. So you can probably fit 5 racks in there. And then 8 foot, you're going to fit 2, and then 4 foot. I doubt you're going to fit 4 rows in there. So, weekly yield, I'd say you can get somewhere between 30 to 50 pounds a week out of it, depending on how you run it, what strains you use, what you focus on, how dense you make stuff. That would be my estimate without seeing any other parts of your plan, like shelving, density, that kind of thing. It would be fun to see you sell at market again after these years to see how it's changed. Well, incidentally, I was just talking to Josiah, who used to co-host with me. He just stopped in and picked up some poundage, but they're still selling at market, and with them selling at market, I think. I mean, he's even said that he would come down and be on camera, and he might even be able to host them remotely. But having Josiah of ET Fungi on, he would still be able to talk to us a lot about the restaurant and market game, since I'm not doing market. And no offense, but I'm not interested in going back to market. That would be a huge step backwards for me. Even though I think that it's an essential, fundamental part of our businesses, my business has now gotten to the point where I'm basically genetic supply and don't really make any money off fresh mushrooms much anymore. I sell fresh mushrooms to distributors who distribute for me, but you're not. It's not. We're not talking about the $8 to $10 a pound I was getting for stuff. So basically, I just need my pilot farm to pay for itself. And that's something we'll talk about here in a little bit as well, is how the business for us is going to be structured. But we'll talk about that after the life priorities. Howdy, all. Happy New Year. Always nice to see you, Lady Mossy, and you as well, Laird. Thank you. Which she'll be back. I'm sure she'll read that and see it. We are also excited for 2025. Starting this Saturday, we'll be at the 2025 Pennsylvania Farm Show. That sounds cool. He said starting the Saturday, so is this like a regular thing? Does the farm show go on every Saturday? Or is this a starting this Saturday, you'll be at the 2025 one, and then you'll go to the 2026 one kind of thing? How's that work? What's up, ex-viewers? As always, ex-viewers, if any of you will just type out, that you're here, that you can hear me. I want to make sure that the X stream is working. It's worked most of the times, but there was a couple of times where it's had a little bit of an issue. Have you done a video on doing a spore print and transferring to Agar? I've done spore prints to... I did a video on how to do a spore print, but did I do on how to rub to Agar? I can't remember. That's one of my earlier videos. But, I mean, I can do it, but the basic thing would be to do a spore print, take a sterile swab, rub it across your spore print, take your plate, and then rub your what's called a spore streak. If you look up a spore streak pattern, in fact, I might be able to do that. Let's see, spore streak. Boop, boop, boo, doo, boo. Images. Hey, Gary shows right up, of course. Okay. Let me get a share screen going. So here's this that's a good example. Here's a good show the streak pattern. I actually don't like that one. That one's a little sloppier, but this one's a really nice, neat spore streak. And thank you. Everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay. The big thing that you want with a spore streak is that you want it to start off with big, wide sweeping motions, and then kind of come down. Then you see how these are grouped tight but wide, and then you come down into your tail. And actually, I'm hoping that it shows my mouse moving over it, but the tail, as it's coming across, you can see how these colonies, they're separating. The early part of the spore streak oftentimes does not give you any room to operate. So when you come down here, you can see these individual pieces and you can cut them out if you need to.
So you're sharing your screen?
Yeah.
Because I don't.
Oh my gosh, is it not working? It says that I'm literally sharing it. Looks like X is working. Awesome, Joey. Thank you. Ha! Oh my gosh.
What?
Okay. Just me. Here we go. Joe, I'm going to pull your comment down just so people can see a little bit easier. But okay. Here's the plate. There we go. This is what I'm talking about. So I was saying that one, there's an example where you can see, but I don't like that. That's a little sloppy, your spore streak. This looks a lot more professional. And you see how they like that? That's almost like to rub a bunch of spores off. And then you come off here to the side and you do your wide but compact streaks. Is it showing my mouse? It is. Cool. And then you do the smaller tail. And as it comes down, you can see the little colonies right here and here. There's little pieces that you can This is also like a bacterial streak. It's just a plate streak, really. This is a common, fundamental technique in microbiology. It's one of the first things that you learn. I think I learned this like my first lab, maybe my second. I may have learned it my second lab. But that's a spore streak. You see other examples here. You can see how people have been doing them. That one, I don't know how you would ever get anything out of that. That's just completely streaked everywhere. But look at this. Gary, I knew it. Gary was like the first thing that popped up. There's a second picture of Gary. I knew as soon as you put spores in here, Gary's going to show up.
So funny
purification
enough,
of fungal cultures. Right there, it's showing you zip, 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 zip. What's that, baby?
so funny enough that call was actually a customer who had ordered in syringes, and I guess this is the North Spore way, where you order in syringes and then you take the syringe and insert it straight into substrate and then just plunge it in.
Mm-hmm.
And he was asking about his bag, that he thought, maybe it was rotten or something. And so I told him to send us pictures. He said he had photos. And so we'll just our courtesy is that we just automatically replace it, no questions asked.
Yeah.
The first time. And then if there's second and third, then Andrew oftentimes will call and be like, hey, let's figure this out. Because if we have good results and test results on our agar plates, and every lot number that we send out, we have additionally produced it ourselves. So I encouraged him to jump on here and ask questions. So hopefully we'll see him soon. But yeah.
Good. Okay. So you guys did get to see that, thankfully.
Those plates are a good way to test cultures. And if you bring in cultures and something happens, something shows up in transit that wasn't there beforehand or whatnot, then it's a really good way to clean it up and do needle biopsies and transfers, and sometimes we get strains in where we have to clean them up too.
Oh, it's a 9-day straight event. Status earlier said, always nice to see you, Lady Mossy, and you as well, Laird. But they said that starting this Saturday, they'll be at the 2025 Pennsylvania Farm Show. And I was like, well, is that a weekly thing? Because they said starting at, and that's where they said it's a 9-day straight event. So
that's cool.
That's pretty neat.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the homesteading conference that we have here in Tennessee.
The Homestead Conference?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just wanted to pop in and say, hey, Happy New Year and Merry belated Christmas. I hope you all have some amazing holidays. Glad to see y'all's health better. It is much better. Thank you. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
Likewise. We feel so much better. I told Andrew, I feel like I finally have my endurance back. I never suffered quite like Andrew did, but I definitely kind of went through a little bout of sadness and depression in part because I was so worried about him.
I don't think that you even have to put it like that. I got sick, and apparently this version of COVID, it's something like 60% of people who get it end up coming away with some sort of form of depression. For some reason, this disease, I think it's inflammation of the brain or some shit. So,
well, I was like, I'm not helping people fast enough. I'm not answering emails fast enough. And I was trying to take care of him and then take care of our children and then cook and clean and all the other stuff too, as moms tend to do. And then Andrew would perk up a little bit and he would try to make up for me. And then I'd perk up and try to make up for him and kind of give each other the rest, obviously, that we needed.
Yeah.
And then supporting one another too. And just
it was crazy because I could not, no matter how tired I got, I couldn't sleep. It was I was sick that when I just could not sleep.
Oh, you'd wake up at 3 a.m. and just be wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and then you were so exhausted, and you just couldn't fall back asleep. Sit there and think about all the things you need to get done, but you're so tired you don't even want to do them.
Oh yeah,
but you need to do them.
Can I get the email address? Can't find on the website. This is that Keith fella. It's just mossycreekmushrooms@gmail.com. That's the easiest one to send it to.
Oh, yeah. So you're the one that I just spoke to. Mm-hmm. Thanks for hopping on. I'm glad you found it on YouTube.
Do you know how much power you used to consume while you were growing at home at the height before the foundry? I don't, but I can tell you my electric bill went somewhere from $400 a month to $1,200 a month.
Currently, it's $1,500.
No,
At the
it's not.
warehouse?
No, no. Right now we've got it down to about the when I paid last month it was $7.50. Wintertime's always cheaper for us though.
I just got the bill.
Yeah, that was two bills stacked together. That was where I paid late.
Okay.
So 750
Well,
and
definitely had
750 is about
a
1500.
miniature heart attack. I was like, whoa.
No, thankfully, no. Summertime we'll get to $1,500 for the air conditioning, but wintertime, no, we're at like 750, 800 a month. So, um, uh, hey Keith.
Yeah,
Um,
it was definitely lower at the house because the blocks would it would insulate and create heat for the house.
yeah, the wintertime our electric bill would go like 400 a month, and then summertime it shoot up to 1,500.
And then
For some reason, our summertime electric here is cheaper than it was at the basement op, but our wintertime is more expensive here than our wintertime was at the basement
and
op.
you're seeing the incubation room behind us, so it's kind of buffering and keeping warm the studio on top of the other side of the grow room. So it's kind of neat and hilarious how that works.
Yeah, oh yeah. Joe said it's hard for me to sleep right now. Arm in a sling from shoulder replacement surgery I had a month ago. Oh yeah, I forgot that you had it, man. Hope the healing's going better.
So you've probably got some aches and.
Well, and if you're a side sleeper like me, I can't even imagine trying to sleep without being able to sleep on my side with the shoulder stuff. But something I learned while I was sick is that I actually like sleeping on concrete more than I like sleeping on a bed. So any chance I get now, I slip off and take a nap on the concrete.
I did work with a super sweet lady that had that same surgery, and her recovery was surprisingly quick. She was in her 50s when she had it done, and then she said that she just leaned into physical therapy, and it hurt like a but then she continued to rotate and do everything that they told her to do, and she recovered really, really well. In fact, her rotation and everything was better after the surgery than it was before. So I'm hoping the same thing for you.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Yeah, prayers and thoughts for sure. Do you use solar panels to offset the power bills? Not really. I have some solar panels, like fold out ones and stuff, and I have some battery banks, but they're really more for emergencies or really they're for when we travel in the RV. If we ever, because we do is we travel and we set up camp wherever we can, but a lot of times that requires boondocking. So, we
especially festivals and things, because that's what we bought the camper for.
Right.
The travel trailer was to travel to the festivals and not have to stay in hotel rooms and stuff.
Yep. And so, or like when we went down to Florida April of last year, we stopped and camped out in Cracker Barrel parking lots, and there's no electric or water hookups there. So we just lived off our freshwater tank, and then dumped our tanks at truck stops and stuff as we needed. But then we did have shore power when we got down to Joe Ivino's place of Cactus Hat Mushrooms, but before then, we wouldn't. So what I would do is I would put my solar panels out in the Cracker Barrel parking lot. I mean, I would put it on the truck and stuff, but I'd always look up, figure out where the sun was going to rise, put the solar panels there. We'd wake up to the smell of frying bacon and coffee and all that stuff, go have our breakfast, come back, and the solar panels would have our phone chargers, etc., charged up, topped off, the 12-volt system for the RV, etc. So
yeah, we don't have any solar panels on our roof here at the warehouse personally. Just we have it on the travel trailer, and we do have very small ones that are on the roof currently that fuel the pump for the aquaponic system, and some small floating fountains and stuff, but nothing major. There are farms who have done that and do that and have actually received grants for it that are reimbursement grants. They go ahead and they pay for the solar panels, and they go ahead and do all the work, and then once it's complete, they turn in their receipts, and then it's reimbursed to them. Also, a lot of electric companies now, they'll go ahead and set everything up on your farm or at your house, and then you pay per month like you would with your electric bill
Right.
until the solar panels are paid off, and then you can sell the excess energy back to the electric company to where they'll give you a check each month.
Well, what will happen is you generate electricity, and then you pay your payment through the electricity generated, and then once it's paid off, then you start getting paid directly. So it's a pretty cool system, because what it'll do is it'll pay your electric bill, and then whatever's left over will go towards paying, so the better your house produces, the better you get paid. But we don't have any solar panels like that. So electricity where we live is so dirt cheap. I know 1,500 sounds like a lot, but it's not in the summertime for a lot of mushroom compared to a lot of other mushroom farms, because we're running a 9 kilowatt steamer, our autoclaves, air conditioning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And electricity here in East Tennessee is, okay, before the pandemic, it was 6 cents a kilowatt. Now it's 11 cents a kilowatt hour. So,
you okay? He still goes through coughing fits like this. Oh, honey. Let me get you some water.
Talk to the people.
Sorry. So, Keith, I have your email pulled up here. Andrew maybe can share it on his screen here in a little bit, but it's definitely, I'm assuming where the growth is, the middle of that is where you injected it, and then I can see some of that brown sand mold.
Hold on. There's no point in doing this for one person that no one else can see. I
was hoping that you could pull that up. But yeah, anytime you order a syringe from any company, the first thing I would do is put it into an agar plate, and then make sure it comes out clean on the agar plate. And then if you're going to you can do your own LC, and you can do a needle biopsy. That's a clean needle biopsy from that plate. And we have Andrew produced a video on that. So basically, any tools that you need to produce mushrooms, there's a lot of good channels out there, including ours, if I do say so myself. Andrew's produced a lot of good content and tutorials and things like that to make you as capable as possible, so that you can go through genetics, choose what you want, what's good for your area, and then be as independent and good to go as you can.
Okay, so I have 3 bags that are showing some growth, but I don't know if it's good growth. Some pictures probably in multiple emails. Yeah, I can't see what that is.
And I think this will be like this to me.
This looks like Hericium, kind of.
That's what it looks like to me, because it's got that. Hericium always has this sort of sparse stratification where it looks really wispy and airy like, and then you'll have these little clumps, these kind of circular concentrated areas, and you'll see it in the bag as well as here's a perfect example.
Well, I don't think people can see you, Samantha, right now.
Oh, just from because you're sharing your screen. Well, later we'll come back to it.
Here. There you go.
No, I had to mess them up. Like this is Hericium, and you can see where it's really concentrated. It's fruiting up top, but you have like this really kind of, it doesn't look like it's colonized at all right through here, but then you have sort of circular growths that are spotted in certain areas, and then there's like a lighter brown color as well. Like that's something that you pretty commonly see as mycelium is eating and taking out the nutrients, and you'll see color changes. And I mean, this thing is going bonkers. It's already fruiting in the top. And
this is Savior Bee.
Yes.
That was sent to us by Brian, that's in our Discord, which I do need to go back, Michelle, and I'll answer your question here in just a second. But thank you for the examples, Samantha. We're going to go hear a word from our sponsor real quick, folks.
Introducing the future of mycology, Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery. This isn't your average culture mix. It's a revolution in a packet. crafted for the dedicated cultivator seeking unparalleled growth. Experience the visual alchemy of this masterful brew. As you mix 10 grams with 500 milliliters of water, watch the solution transform into a rich, amber spectacle, the hallmark of a nutrient-dense sanctuary for your burgeoning mycelium. This is where vibrant color meets vibrant life, setting our elixir apart from the ordinary clear liquid cultures. Prepare to be captivated. Mix 10 grams of Dr. Silurian's elixir with 500 milliliters of water, add a stir bar for thorough integration, and sterilize the blend at 15 psi for 45 minutes. Once cooled, introduce your favorite culture into this perfectly prepared, nutrient-rich environment. Watch in awe as the elixir works its magic, unveiling a mycelial masterpiece before your eyes. Choose Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery for a mycological adventure that's as visually enchanting as it is potent.
That's right. Get you some. And while you're getting some, folks, save 20% with discount code New Year 25. That's weird, right? Code 20% off for code 25, but 20% off with discount code New Year 25. That does stack with the thank you code that we give you guys in every order. The current winter code will be good till the end of February, so the one that you guys have been getting. But the orders that go out starting tomorrow, I think, are going to be having a new code. Those two thank you codes won't stack, but they will. Either one of them will stack with the code New Year 25. So you can get 20% off, or if you get one of the thank you cards, they'll give you an extra 15% off for a total of 35% off by stacking them. So, and we appreciate you guys as always.
Yes.
Supporting us. So it's been quite awesome having you guys start to purchase so much liquid culture all of a sudden.
Like one of my favorite things is going to an artist or another farmer, or there's quite a few awesome farms in our area alone, and going and buying eggs or meat or flowers or any of those things and seeing how they grow. There's a flower farm in particular here local that I've seen an explosion in their growth, and it's just so amazing to see them and their family and just how they're going about in their community. And you do get something back when you purchase that, but at the same time seeing how your purchasing power goes toward really elevating their interests and who they are. And it started with zinnias and kind of the more run-of-the-mill flowers, but were tried and true, and then now over the years you see like just these kind of rare, gorgeous flowers. And I feel like you saw the same growth with us, where we had our basics like pink and blue and white, and and then now our library is enormous.
It's enormous. And that's actually to be said, like as soon as the framework for parsing the different types of mushrooms out is built out on the website, we'll have a lot more uploaded. So, keep up with the show, keep up watching these codes, and we're going to start announcing when new stuff goes up. Like a lot of you guys don't even know, probably, we sell a shiitake string now. We sell $37.90. We've got that stocked in liquid culture, ready to ship the moment you order it.
In fact, we have some. You just planted some in the grow room.
No, none of that was $37.90.
Oh, okay.
No, though that's all brood stock for the breeding program, so that's various strains from bunch of different companies. But you $37.90 will be going in there. We do have it planted in right behind us.
Well, that's the thing. Like that is our SOP, is that whatever's going up on the website that's being stocked in the inventory, we're now starting to trace inventory. Whereas used to, we would just basically, you'd order it, we would make it fresh. Now you'll have inventory, and once it gets halfway sold out, we get an email saying that we need to remake it.
Yep. That's part of the new plan, guys. Like I said, this new year is full of new systems.
And that way, it ought to get very quickly shipped out. And if it's out of stock, then you're not going to be able to order it until we put it back in stock.
Obviously, we've had, anything that was ordered last week probably didn't ship because it was holidays. So keep that in mind. we are a lot faster, but this is a holiday. We had someone who emailed me today, and they're like, I ordered 6 days ago, and you've still not shipped it to me. And I was like, that was like 2 days before Christmas.
And things are being changed over on the website as we speak.
They are.
So there's definitely some legacy things where we would still, you would order it, we would see that you ordered it, we'd make up all the substrate, sterilize, autoclave everything, and then make the transfers, and then it would take a week and a half to grow out before we shipped it to you. So I don't know.
Not no more. I like the better now. I'm thinking of joining your Patreon to learn more. What do they include? I'm doing your no pour Petries, just checking a quarter teaspoon of agar and premixed 20 ml water and bamboo toothpick. Correct? That sounds correct, but I haven't done no pours in a while. We started using the peristaltic pump to pour agar into plates, and I only ever use the no pours for. I have my recipe book, but I only ever use those for very specialty cases, like when I'm doing very small amounts of things. So that sounds correct, but I can't remember exactly. So, but as far as the Patreon goes, what does that include? Well, anything that's included is listed in the tiers. So you just look at the tier and it'll tell you exactly what it is. We're probably 4 months from the last time we shipped out rewards. So we're going to ship all of the remaining of last year's rewards out like next week.
And we like to do it kind of, at a 2-3 months interval, depending on how massive everything is.
Quarterly is what we tried.
Yeah, and so you'll get multiple months all in one go, and then that just it makes sure that the funds spread further. And oftentimes we'll have some really cool, neat stuff that's ready as well that we'll just throw in there as a thank you. And so it's just kind of we got this idea from someone else who was doing something, and it was plant-based, agricultural-based, like bulbs, things like that. And they would send in a seasoned or a spring, an entire spring's worth versus sending it out every single month.
Mm-hmm.
And we just thought that was brilliant, really, as far as, agriculture goes.
I think it works pretty well.
Plus, we're bringing things out in batches, bringing things out seasonally, and it also ensures that you get everything pretty darn fresh. It's all growing out at the same time.
Exactly. How do I... There we go. Trying to pull up the share screen of other stuff.
This system is really cool. I'm really impressed with that software.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's one of the best I've come across. So, we answered that. Solar panels are the best. Mostly my bill is in the green and only pay at the height of summer around $60. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that kind of stuff. Luckily, we have a nuclear power plant here because of the Y12 facility. So it's why one of the reasons why our electric is so dirt cheap. I am all about nuclear power.
We have the hydroelectric with the dams.
Yeah, but those are, when we were kids, those were producing 3 to 4 days worth of electricity.
Now demand is so high.
Now it is 1 day per week, I think is what they said.
Yeah, our poor little city is we're maxed out on our elementary school.
Well, and the county landfill now has a methane biodigester power plant where they burn all your kitchen food waste, grass clippings, etc. They all mushroom blocks when we do the landfill, which we haven't in a while, but we have some in there from like a year ago or so. But you have all of this biological material in there. It rots down, produces methane gas. The county collects it, runs it through their power plant, but most of that goes to producing electricity for the city services. It doesn't go for us.
And then we have a
but it does reduce the cost.
Free to the community compost pile that we can go pick up.
We do. Where they take the leaves and grouse clippings that are left on the side of the road, and they go put those in big rows and compost them down, and you can go get all you want. So our city and county are thankfully really, really mindful about that kind of stuff. But most of my, I don't really mind running power because mushrooms generate so much income off of what little bit of power you use that it's really quite sustainable from the farmer perspective. So Marcus Aurelius used to sleep on the ground. He said that it made him appreciate that life is hard. It's not to be comfortable. I kind of like that, though. I'll tell you, I just get better sleep on the ground. I don't know what it is.
I do not.
I do. I hate mattresses. I freaking hate mattresses and pillows.
Give me a soft, comfy feather bed any day.
Let me sleep. Backpacking was always the best sleep I ever got. In fact, some of the best sleep I ever got was in the Linville Gorge. And I brought my hammock, and it was so cold and windy where we were staying at the very top of the hill, and it was a bald, so there were no trees really, hardly. So I found this log and this sandy patch, and I remember I dug out this little hollow just big enough for my body to stay in. I put my hammock or my mylar blanket down, my hammock and my sleeping bag, and then I stretched my rainfly over the log. Excuse me, and over myself. So I just basically had this little burrow. And you can ask Samantha, I'm basically a burrowing creature, just in general. Like, I'm a groundhog. But that was the best night's sleep I ever got. Until this weird party started. We on the bald across the gorge. There was like we were in the clouds. I mean, we were high enough that it was like cloud layer. So the clouds come in and sock us in, and then we start hearing chanting and drums, and we look over, and like the fire they have a huge fire, and it's projected, and there are people dancing around the fire and screaming and hooting and hollering and making all kinds of noise, and their shadows are stretching through the fog like gigantic light show kind of creatures. And we were just like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get eaten by witches. Like Charlie, Charles, and I, we're like, this is the wrong time to come unarmed.
Creepy Appalachian mountains.
It was definitely, it's got to be some witches. But
dancing bears and painted wings.
You know, it could have been the bear people that Jackie was always talking about. The Cherokee have this like story apparently about bears are people who forgot they were people or something, or they just went wild and forgot how to not be wild or something.
How you feeling over there? You
What do you
feeling
mean?
okay? Are you having a hard time breathing?
I'm having a little bit of a hard time breathing.
I'm gonna
Can you hear it?
go wash my hands.
Okay.
I may have set you off with this
Lotion.
gifted lotion. It has a little bit of a scent to it.
Maybe.
I'm sorry.
I'm really sensitive to scents right now. Like it definitely messes with me. I can actually feel my asthma kicking up. But where are we at? Y'all's teamwork and marriage is an I gotta wait for Samantha on that one. So I'm gonna skip it, Callus, but I'll be back. I'm 41 cents USD per kilowatt here, and it'd be tough to manage on occasion, especially through the winter. I can imagine. You poor Scots. I'd say it gets cold too where you're at. So, we'll wait on that one too. Shelly, hi. How do you fix spore problem when you do heat recovery from air intake or air in growing room? Do you not use air from growing room? So I don't have an HRV on my grow room right now. I have it on my incubation room, but not my grow room. But everyone I know who's done them in the grow room, for the HRVs, just they have a panel that they can open up and they just spray it out with a pressure washer or something like that, and they do it like once every 6 months. So what we found out by talking to people was that the spore buildup wasn't really that big of a problem very quickly, but as long as like our HRV that we have for the grow room is not hooked up, but it's designed so that we can go up there on a little step ladder, open it up, and just pressure wash down, and it blows all that chloroplast out. So that's the big thing. Mushrooms don't have holidays. That's true. That is true.
I'm
So they
sorry.
don't- You're all right.
Okay.
All right. Y'all's teamwork and marriage is an inspiration to most. I used y'all's beginning videos as an example to show my wife to kind of get her on board to starting our mushroom growing business. Y'all kept it real when talking about the hardships you faced, about communication and different risk level acceptances between the both of you. It's very similar to my wife and I. And I'll always keep y'all in mind when going through my hardships in the future. Or I will always keep. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, we have two very different working styles. Two very different risk tolerance levels. Two very different brain organizational patterns, I would say. And on paper, I don't think that we would work well together. But for some reason, we do. It's
air high five, just in case I.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. It's something that we wanted to show people too. We talked about that, and it's been challenging. I'm not going to lie about it. That's something Samantha and I decided a while back is we're not going to paint rosy pictures when they're, we're going to be
We're
authentic.
really bad at that anyway.
What? Being optimistic?
No, painting like
Or
rose-colored kind of, just in general. Andrew's mom gets on to him all the time about saying things a certain way.
well, that's fair. But, yeah, I mean, so it's been challenging, but overall, I think it's been really good for us. And we've always liked working together more than... I would rather be mad at her and working with her than perfectly in love and without her. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes, no?
So I remember when we went to the factory and we were working there, and they're like, Samantha, you go over there. Andrew, you go over there. So you go with Andrew. So you go with Samantha. And Samantha and I went, oh. And they went, what? Well, you want to work together? And we were like, yeah. And they're like, most husbands and wives don't want to work together. And Samantha and I were like, well, why would we want to be married to someone we don't want to spend time with? Like,
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It irritates me to no end. When I built this table, I had a plan for this table. It was the simplest, most rudimentary construction, and it still is.
What you don't see underneath is it's 2 pallets.
It's 2 pallets put together by a 2x4 frame with a piece of what's this wood called?
It's not OBS, is it?
No, it's not chipboard. It's
Plywood.
Plywood. There you go. Plywood. It's just a piece of plywood that's been sanded down to be smooth. And it's just a rough table with holes drilled in it so wires can go through it and the mics can stand up in it.
My last mic malfunction was the fact that this hole was too big.
Well, whatever. So the point being, instead of like you're building a table, how about we build this like super fancy table I saw on Instagram? And I'm like, I don't have this ability. Like, can I build the rudimentary table first before we go through a complicated?
I think so many people relate to this.
Maybe it's definitely like her. I in a way I'm flattered because her belief and confidence in my abilities far outstrips my abilities. I mean,
oh, that's not true. I don't know. With me, it's if you're going to build a thing, put time and attention and detail into it, make it worthwhile, something that you're going to mentally, visually enjoy. It's just because and not only should it serve a function, it should form an impression to the general vicinity in the room. I don't know. I'm more aesthetically
an
oriented.
Imperfect table properly applied far beats a perfect table never built. So it's the way I look at it.
That is true. And I did kind of, make an inkling toward that same sentiment earlier, just a few seconds ago.
That's true.
And I do admire greatly, and I don't know how much you realize I admire that, but I do very much admire the fact that you just get in there and you get it done. Whereas me, I do have like a bunch of different projects that are only partially finished because I want them to be perfect. But that detail, in my defense, that detail.
That's the saying I should use then. An imperfect table finished is better than a perfect table never finished. I like that.
But I figure if we use the positive attributes the positive sides of the attributes that we both have, we could have the best of both worlds on here. Yeah. What? Can't see.
That's the last one. A main function of a table is a table, not a work of art.
Well, and that was kind of a point. Was like they're not going to see the table; they're just going to see us.
Yep.
But what you don't see is the fact, Andrew has his computer, I have my computer. Charles has his computer over here. This is also this is where we answer emails. It's where we do the design work. It's where we do a lot of work. And I have, you can't see that either, can you? I have a ton of like little Lego gifts for my children that they put together, and over here that it just brings me happiness.
Oh yeah, you've got my little cherry blossoms over there.
Here you
or whatever those are, orchids. No, don't worry about it. I don't need anything.
Those are my orchids, thank you.
Do what?
Those are my orchids, thank you.
But they were over here for months.
You stole them.
They
You have a bonsai tree that we got you for Father's Day.
That's true. I need to put it together. I'm just not a Lego person. I have a theory, y'all. The kids who played with Legos and dreamed of astronauts became engineers, like dreamed of space. They became engineers. The kids who like loved dinosaurs became biologists. I was a dinosaur kid. So that's definitely...
I was the crush things to figure out what pigments they make, kid.
Gosh.
Oh.
Of course you were. Everything got crushed. What? Let's see. All right, I'll get in... well, I'll tell you what. Let's go through some of this stuff real quick, and then I want to get into the life priorities since we're already an hour in. So, are you willing to give any insight into how you make tinctures? I mean, yeah, man. For the most part, we use a 3-part system. We use a water extraction, a solvent extraction, and then a mechanical extraction. That's pretty much
everything
it.
We do. We have. It was like a month, and even like years worth of just reading back-to-back studies and articles and using the same methods.
Yeah. One of the big things that makes my tinctures different than most people's is more along the lines of the strains that we use, because we have a much larger than normal genetic library. So, like we use these lion's mane that we've bred that produce a very thicker than normal extract for our lion's mane tinctures. It's a strain that I've bred. You can see there on the left is, well, it went away too quick. When we get back through it, the one on the left would be like a normal commercial lion's mane. The one on the right, here we go, is the one I bred. So it's a much darker, it's a much thicker. The TDS, total dissolved solids,
and we do a lot of
count is
roasts.
much higher.
We do a lot of soups and a lot of roasts where we utilize the mushroom powder, and we noticed a big difference on the fat that was coming to the top. Like it was a big difference.
It was a big difference, yeah. So that's why our tribble strain is what you're seeing right there, and it cooks up really nice and brown. It's a very sugary, high polysaccharide mushroom. So it that's the biggest difference in my tinctures, I feel like, because we use sonic extraction, we use alcohol extractions, we use water.
It's what everyone else is doing.
It's what everyone else is
yeah.
doing. But our stuff is different because of the genetics that we use. The mushrooms that we use are specifically bred for this, or specifically bioprospected and tested for this. So, we also do a lot more, I feel like, reading and research into different mushroom types. We'll be coming out with some blends eventually, but like we focus a lot on like our golden enoki tinctures. Almost no one else makes those, but look up the health benefits of golden enoki. WebMD is a great place to learn a lot about it. Incredibly good for your heart, incredibly good for your like you're talking about like lion's mane being good for your neurological health. Look at golden enoki and neurological health. It's that's some of the biggest difference between us and the others is specifically going back to a first principles thinking when it comes to extracts, but also coming at it from your materials. What if you put good ingredients in, you get good ingredients out.
Yeah. So. Well, and I'm just gonna tell y'all point blank. Andrew's probably gonna be like, "Why'd you say that?" But the golden enoki is snottish. It is
slimy when you make an extra. When you cook with golden enoki, especially our Appalachian enoki, I've noticed is way slimier than normal. And I hate to put it that way. When it's cooking, you just cook it until the slime cooks out, and then it creates a really rich food. But doing the extracts, oh my gosh, when you zap that stuff down. So we also do a high pressure extraction, which most people also don't do. But that is one of the best for getting polysaccharides. That high pressure extraction, when it comes out with the enoki, it is spot in a bottle. It's kind of gross. But I'll tell you, once you thin it with alcohol, it's much easier. I take it in my shake.
Shake it.
Yeah, shake it up. But this golden enoki, that polysaccharide count, that's what creates a lot of that gooiness. So that's one of the reasons, that's one of the ways you know that it's incredibly healthy for you. It also produces a couple of amino acids that are pretty unique and very closely related to amino acids that we need, and we'll break it down into the same fundamental parts.
And Andrew and I are hilariously texture adverse on so many things.
Yeah.
I love bananas.
I hate bananas.
And he hates bananas. I love oatmeal.
Ugh.
Love oatmeal. He
Blech.
hates oatmeal. I do not like the enoki tincture, but he really likes
I
it.
love it.
I hide it in a smoothie. So that's just me. It tastes good. I just don't want anybody to be surprised and then like freak out and call us worried. It's supposed to be like that.
Right, yeah. It absolutely is supposed to be like it's not like I
and
said.
I'd have to be honest and truthful up front.
Well, when you thin it with the alcohol extract, it's nowhere near as bad. So what Samantha sees behind the scenes. Samantha sees how the sausage is made, right? That's the big thing.
Gosh.
I had a nightmare the other night about me being a mushroom and having this desire to eat other mushrooms. I will not be drinking Everclear before bed again. It sounds like you had something else in the Everclear, buddy.
No.
You had a little blue water in there, maybe.
Oh wow.
I will. Okay, so admittedly,
Goodness.
we're an hour and 11 minutes in, so my mom is unlikely to see this. So I will tell you all, and only you all,
You're gonna hear it next family dinner.
probably going to. But when I've taken mushrooms in the past, I don't know what it is, but I go super predatory. I don't mean like on other people and that kind of stuff, but it's just like I want to gnaw on bones. I want to rend flesh with teeth. I want to just grab a chunk of flesh and I don't know what it is. I want to hunt. I want to stalk.
You're strange.
I am. Like everybody else gets on mushrooms and they're all like, oh, come together, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no, must kill, must eat, caveman. Like, I don't know what it is.
Lizard brain.
I have talked to the AI about this. I have talked to, other people about this. Sydney Over Singleton is convinced it's my, like, for some reason, mushrooms activate my limbic system, which is your lizard brain. So, but there's just something about it that makes me want to eat meat. And I don't know what it is really. So, but I get weird desires, buddy. I do.
I wonder if it's like a protein synthesis or if it's like you're turning on something or some sort of nutritional craving or like that is a really interesting pattern.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Do you use any mushroom farm software? Not currently, but there's a couple that we're about to start trialing for people. Yeah, I'll let you guys know how it goes for me. They're oftentimes on the chat, so we'll see how that goes. As a new mushroom grower, you guys are one of the channels still making new content tailored towards beginning growers in business. Is my algorithm bad, or is the fall off really that real? The fall off's really that real. Most of the people who have been making content have been making content for a while now, and most of us are bored with the new content. And that includes me. That's why I started doing this live show rather than videos, because it was like, I don't want to make the same old videos. But I don't mind talking to new beginners about stuff all the time. So to me, this is much more conversational, which I get excited about. Videos I find a little draining unless I'm given a free hand to be more creative with them. But when I do that, I end up being much slower and not putting out as much content. And this is a way for me to put out content for you guys weekly, help you guys easier. We get a live show where you guys can actually talk to me. I'm about to start actually advertising this show because I want to build the audience. Because let's see, right now we're sitting around 70 people combined from YouTube and X. I forgot to put Instagram on here.
Shame.
I forgot it last week too. Anyways.
We'll get in
because Instagram, I can't schedule it beforehand. I have to do it live. I have to connect it live right at the beginning of the show. So That's why we got.
And putting in the reps, showing up. Like, we get a lot of conflicting information where it'll be like, you guys are too professional, or you guys are not professional enough, or you guys are not available enough, like, or you guys are too available and, get to work. So, I mean, it's just, this, I feel like, gives dedicated 2 hours per week. And Andrew has said this before, where people can come on and ask questions, and we're here, we're available. And I know a lot of these are kind of some of the exact same questions being asked, but you're also getting a bunch of new questions too.
Mhm.
And we do try to avoid super repetitive stuff, but
I try to bring stuff in. Like, we're going to talk about life priorities here in just a minute.
Yeah.
And I want to, kind of go into how that kind of stuff helps.
And you can see us authentically here live in real time. I mean, oftentimes I'm bustling in, at random times because I'm running errands or, whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing a very real version of us. And I think with the older videos, a lot of people are like, okay, this is too curated. In the background, you're seeing mushrooms that are growing in and being made weekly. You're seeing them colonize and then start all over. So you'll see fully colonized blocks behind us.
Mm-hmm.
Next week it's
Heck,
day one again.
I'm considering setting up a stream with a grow room camera, and then just letting you guys watch the grow room whenever you want. You can just check in on the grow room. We haven't done that. I'm also trying to get super chats and stuff, so that way I can prioritize people who pay for a super chat, that kind of thing, to help us support the show. Really, the best thing to do is order from us, but it does help us anytime we can get people on Patreon or people. The super chats used to be really helpful back on the show, but I have to go through a whole new physical mail address PIN number with YouTube thing again, so that's super fun. But yeah,
everyone's going to see me going through picking and making a huge mess on the floor.
Well, that's why I was like, man, maybe I don't want to do that, right? You guys will see my grow room slowly turn into a mess every week and then get cleaned, and then
it's the reality of it, though.
It is.
I mean,
it absolutely is. But yeah, Mac, as far as like the fall off is real. There are people who are getting into it that are doing more advanced stuff. And that's that from my understanding, it's one of the reasons why I went back to this podcast style, because you get a lot of people that are, I want to reach a wide audience. But of course, cultivation is going to be where my heart's at, where I always come from. That's who I want to interface with, in part because I'm helping build client customers. Like, I used to talk about this a lot, but my whole reason for starting the YouTube channel in the first place was much like the book, A Deepness in the Sky. You hand me that.
You have it over here?
I accidentally, but yeah. One of the best books I've ever read my entire life, by Werner Vinge, A Deepness in the Sky.
Do you need all these other books too?
No, I just wanted to show that one. I picked this up out of the mezzanine last night because I wanted to start reading it again. But in that, you learn about this civilization called the Chang Ho. Aren't really a civilization, more like a collection of peoples who live between planets, right? So it's very sci-fi, very hard sci-fi. Don't read it unless you're willing to read about some technical sci-fi. But it is one of the best sci-fi books ever written. So, A Deepness in the Sky, basically you have the Chang Ho are merchants, and they just live on their ships and temporary habitats and things like that. They call them temps, things like that. So you have where they go onto ice and they sleep between the stars, and the whole time they're flying towards this civilization. It's like humans went off that direction 1,000 years ago. That's plenty of time for them to have a civilization worth trading with. So they take off, and the whole time they're broadcasting ahead of them, here's the blueprints to a civilization, right? Because many human civilizations collapse, and then they start rebuilding. So the idea is, hopefully they've been around long enough to have radio. They're going to pick up our radio waves, or however we can communicate with them, because we can't travel faster than light, but we can broadcast at light speed. So they're saying, here's the blueprints to civilization. And when they get there, hopefully these people have used those blueprints, built up a new civilization. That new civilization has its own quirks. So they go and they trade with these people. Hey, here's better this stuff. Our stuff will work with your stuff because you used our blueprints for civilization. And your quirks will plug in pretty easily with our stuff. So we'll get your uniqueness to us, as well as you will get the perks of having a blueprint ready made for you. And so the whole idea of this YouTube channel for me was there were no people ready to buy genetics back in the day. So what did I do? I start broadcasting, here's how to build a mushroom farm, hoping that one day I have people who are ready to be client customers. So hopefully they use my knowledge to use my strains that should plug into their systems because they know it plugs into mine. That was YouTube in general. So this is my continuation of that. I'm continually building new client civilizations. These are my Chang Ho transmissions, as we call them. The book is about far more than that. The book is about the Chang Ho and one of the first non-human races that the Chang Ho find out about. They go to investigate, accidentally finding this race and another human civilization type. So Chang Ho are like, the Chang Ho are so libertarian that they have ships like, what is it? The Invisible Hand, like the Invisible Hand of the Marketplace. But then they come across another human civilization that is interested in the same phenomenon. And when they get there, they find another race. And so it's about the interplay between the politics and the trading and the
cultural values between all three.
Yeah.
It's and I've read 3/4 of this book. My bookmark might actually be in here still. But there's a lot of really, I think we ought to start a book club and go through chapters and then how we apply specific themes and those little nuances in the farm. I think that would be, Andrew and I both, it's actually one of the things that brought us together in high school. I was working in the library and I worked in the college campus library too, but he and I both have always loved sci-fi and science, we would switch and swap books and like, I don't know if he remembers or knows this, but early on he'd bring books to return and I would oftentimes check out the books he returned because I was like, this guy knows his stuff. He's really good at this. Like every book that I've read that he's returned, I really like. So
the kids definitely get that sneak from you. And they all are like, oh yeah, we get our sneak from you, Dad. No, you don't. She's so sneaky, you don't know she's sneaky.
That's not true.
Are you pressure cooking your extracts like in the Christopher Hobbs book? I have no idea what the Christopher Hobbs book is, but pressure, when we do the high pressure, that's the pressure cook. But it's only a small part of the the process. We use a combined process. So you have pressure extraction, you have a sonic extraction, and you have a solvent extraction. And water alcohol mix is the solvent. Those are my favorite orchids, or those are my orchids. Wife and I coming up on year 46 in March. She's a quilter, and I do woodworking. Her quilting groups keep me busy and making money. Shoulder will not let me do major stuff until it heals. That sucks, man, on the shoulder. But it's good that you guys are able to work together like that, for sure. I was the take stuff apart and never get it back together kid. Me too, if I took stuff apart. I was definitely, to let you know what kind of kid I was, my mom gave me I had begged her for a portion of my flower garden. My grandma gave me a part of her vegetable garden. I would literally pick my favorites, pull up the plants I didn't like, and then just continually, I didn't know I was breeding, but only providing a selective pressure, not realizing what I was doing. I had tanks set up with pill bugs in them, the roly-polies, and I used to sort them. Purples in this one, lavenders in this one, grays in this one, blues in this one. I didn't know now that they're like crazy. In fact, I'm going to pull that up. Let's see. Rubber ducky isopods. I never bred these.
They are so cool, though.
That's the blonde rubber
and the
duck.
Dalmatian ones.
Actually, I'm just going to share this page.
Yeah.
Share screen. So check this out. Right here. So Black Evil worldwide rare exotic isopods. They have a flared out shell. Here's a blonde rubber ducky. Look at this. It literally has a duck's bill. And this one's blonde
it's
because
so cute.
It is. Some of my personal favorites are look at this, how blue these Croatian giants, and they get huge. There we go, the dairy cow. What?
Is it sharing?
Oh,
there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're on a delay. In
I
fact,
know
you could
I was on a
probably
delay,
fast
but I
forward
didn't
yours.
even.
The dairy cow. These are some of my favorites because they little spotted dairy cows. I've always wanted to build like a stump moss bonsai with a little place for like as a mountain with the stump, and then have the little dairy cow isopods grazing the hills.
And see, our son loves that. He's like, are you done with this jar yet? Like any glass jar that we
Look,
have.
the clown ones.
He's been building little moss gardens and stuff, and he'll go find insects and things. And
I was this kid. I was the kid who
he's taken after Andrew quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh, the yellow spots. I mean, just look at these beauties. So
I bet those would go bonkers under a fluorescent light, like a
I bet
black
you're
light.
right. And check this out: 5 freaking pages of unique isopods.
That's like our
Okay.
website. 5 pages of unique fungal strains.
Here's
Or like the watercolor where it has teeth, you know?
Uh-oh.
What?
Mine, my computer is frozen.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. Oh,
And you just
it
blue
just went dark for a second, too. I don't know if it can still hear.
Sad day. You gotta restart.
There we go. Okay, it's back. Hopefully that didn't...
Brain fart.
Well, the computer certainly kind of messed up there, but... so
well, we've got
here,
freezing temperatures coming in, too. So
Florida
that
Fast, the fastest isopods on Earth that we know of. Page 3. Look at this. Uh-oh. Did it freeze? It froze. It really does not like this page.
I'd just exit out of it.
I'm going to. Oh, the Red Panda King. Look at those. Orange, white, orange, white.
Technical
It is still,
difficulties.
I don't know. He said, we hear you. I'm glad that you do, but it's kind of messed up. I'm going to pull this out because it definitely... so we have to talk to the people for just a minute, answer some questions.
Oh, no. What was the last question?
Find it.
Find it.
It was Mac Miller. Or Mac...
Oh, gracious. He always does this to me, and I'm always such a huge mess. I'm sorry, you guys. I get nervous, excited, and then playful and scared all at the same time. It's awful. Oh, man. So I remember Joe saying that it was 46 years of marriage. Let's see. Which is just amazing and something you should be very, very, very proud of. Okay, this is a hot mess. I'm sorry. Okay, I remember that. And then I remember the mushroom nightmares. And then Savage and Focus. Remember that one? Oh, so Sport Mute says, what's up? Doing transfers at the moment. Thanks for the background commentary. Dude, or Dudette, I cannot tell you how helpful it is to listen to things in the background while you work. I've been stuck on a lady named Leah Elson, and she's an author and also a scientist in like nerve repair and a bunch of other stuff. She does so many cool things, but I've been listening to her, and she just answers like science questions that are just completely random and all over the place across multiple disciplines, and I've just had a lot of fun and a lot of joy listening to her. You're back. I got one. And then good listening while working on our little farm in Hawaii. Man, that's something else too. Like Andrew and I always really enjoy when people call in or when they're on the Discord and everyone has their cameras open and you can kind of see what everyone's working on, and you know we're all in it together. And
or
it's
see
just
Dale take off on the Australian beach with his naked white bum, just going across the beach. It's been a while since we've seen him. Old Daly.
there might be a few things in there that we have to. All the worst stuff we've kicked off.
Yes, there's nobody taking baths on it anymore.
Or using the bathroom
Or-
while on live stream.
Don't do that on my Discord.
Yeah, you will be booted.
You will.
I'm sorry. Booted for your booty. Like, no.
I have kids in the background, so that is not adult fun time. Have you heard of berserkers? Viking warriors use mushrooms in battle as a stimulant to be more savage in battle, savage and focus. So I've noticed that if I take like a micro dose, so like if I take like a gram and only a gram, it kind of gets me to the uncomfortable feeling, a little bit of the walls breathing, but then I become it's like my ADD goes completely away. I have a little bit of discomfort, particularly an old injury in my back. Every time I take mushrooms, the first hour, I feel a lot of discomfort in my back right there. I don't know if it's working on the nerves or what, or just exciting them or etc. But then once that goes away and I get over that initial phase, it's like, oh man, I'm focused for the rest of the day, like laser focused, almost like so focused that I can pick up emotions that I'm feeling and kind of remove myself from them and observe the emotions. Like I can observe the emotional state, but at the same time, I'm also very emotional, very sensitive. So Samantha will be like, what's got you in a mood? And I'll be like, oh, I took mushrooms. She's like, that's why you've been so lovey-dovey today or so. So whatever. So, but the focus part is definitely one I can get with. I've been following since y'all first started. This podcast style is brilliant. Thank you. Good listening while working on our little farm in Hawaii. That's the one you were just saying, huh? Samantha?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, something else kind of referencing back to the YouTube channels and people falling off and new content, not being made on some of them. And there's a lot of those catering toward like beginners, seeing sort of the earlier days of a farm. There's a lot of channels that were just shut down talking about.
It's true.
And
well, no, I mean, most of the ones that have been shut down are gourmet producers. Most of the actives are still going for some reason.
Well, that's annoying.
Yeah, it is.
No, no hate toward anybody, but like
I don't have a. So here's the thing: people
there's
think I've got a
individuals-
problem with those kind of mushrooms because I don't like to talk about. I don't like to use the specific words and stuff, and I definitely don't like to talk about cultivating them. Here's the thing: the techniques I teach are applicable in a wide spectrum, but I'm not going to talk about cultivating a certain type of mushroom specifically because that's what gets you shut down. But
and there's people who have
no problem.
had to rebuild their channels from the ground up, and they haven't put in the level of detail into the early stages quite like they did before,
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough gig, having to start all over again. I mean, could you imagine going, straight to zero all over? Like and it took years to get, here with as many subscribers as we have.
So let's talk. Let's kind of switch gears for a minute because I do want to go over this, and we're an hour and a half in, so I want to make sure people get this. This is something that Samantha and I started doing fairly often. I don't know how much she does it on her own recently. The
I
buddy
do all
of ours,
sorts of things.
Charles, brought it to us back in 2017.
Oh,
Life Priorities.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get it pulled up here. Add to studio. There we go. So this is my life priorities. I probably ought to zoom that in, shouldn't I? Let's make sure that shows up properly. There we go. Okay, cool. So this is just something that a buddy of mine brought to our attention 2017, roughly. And with this, the idea is about once a quarter, you're going to pick your targets. So your targets my targets being family, business, physical training / martial arts, and business rework, right? So those are my 4 targets. The idea for us is, really ideally you would have one thing, but that's not how life works. So if we want to focus on stuff, let's pick 1 to 5 things or 3 to 5 things, figuring that you can probably do 3 things pretty well. 5 things, probably not going to do all those so well. So, you try to keep it down to 3. You see, I've gone with 4. That's because I've never been good at paring things down all the way. And I've got a really full life. So because of that, each one of my goals is probably going to be a little slower than it would be if I could concentrate down. But about once a quarter. So right now, I went through these today and kind of just threw up some stuff today to give you some, I'll have probably a little bit of reworking to do on this as things become apparent to me, things that I've missed. Like I'm looking at one thing right now: weekly dinner with family, weekly alone time with kids. So the weekly dinner with family is like I want to get together, with my mom, my dad, Samantha, the kids, Collier's girlfriend, whatever. Sit down as a family, try to have at least one weekly dinner. I want to try to start doing weekly alone time with the kids again, where I have like some sort of bike ride with Aislinn, or take Brody down fishing. Brody and I were going really fishing a lot till I got sick. That kind of crap. It's a new year. I've got to buy a new license. But Brody and I were getting out in the kayaks, and we were doing jug fishing, and it's catfish season, and me being sick, I missed a lot of the prime catfish season. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. But anyways, that kind of stuff. So the idea here is that you pick your target, kind of what you want to focus on, where you want to be. These are really, really open-ended targets. Like, really, it should be stuff like, I want to grow closer as a family. That's a target. But then, how do you define closer together, right? So you need to be able to define that in some way. You don't have to write that down necessarily. But then you need to pick steps, weekly, daily, monthly steps that you can take that are actionable steps. And then you want to build those into your life. And you want, with each one of these, what I will need to do is go through here, pick this weekly dinner with family. And maybe I go, it's unreasonable to have a weekly dinner with Samantha's grandma Susie, mom and dad, and our family, and my family, because that's 2 weekly dinners. And that's a lot during the week to do 2 full family dinners that aren't just our family, right? So if we're doing that, then, it's these?
No, I was
Yawning. Okay. So maybe when I go down into the family section, I can go down here, and I can come right here, and I can list family. So Control Shift E.
You're doing that on Google
Control
Docs.
UB. Yep. So family.
Family.
Okay. So when I say weekly dinners, I can do this like alternating weeks between Sam and I's families. Not familiar. Oh.
So you kind of create a fallback, like if you can't achieve.
So this would be like what I would eventually do here is write down a min max scenario, right? So what I'm talking about here is like, what do I minimum?
I didn't do that.
Minimum action to not fall behind. So if I do 0 dinners a week with my family, then obviously I'm not meeting my goal. So minimum, I want a weekly dinner with one side of the family or another. To your average, your mid should be an act. So minimum should be an action that keeps you from falling behind. Mid should be an action that moves you forward at a gradual pace. Fire breathing, max days. That's when you're feeling like you can conquer it all. You've got all the energy in the world. That's when you go, I'll have 4 freaking dinners with my family, or I'm going to spend a whole day doing something, right? Like that's the thing. Or like with the weekly alone time with the kids, I'm going to spend 30 minutes each week alone with one kid, connecting with them. Midweek, I'm going to spend an hour. Fire breathing day, I'm going to spend a full day with each kid. Right? That's a tall order. That's not something I'm going to be able to accomplish every week. But on the weeks when I've got it good and I can do that, I can throw myself into that. I'm going to print this out. After I figure all this out, I'll put it on my refrigerator. I'll put it on my office wall. I'll put it on places I'm going to see it regularly, right? And what this does is this is probably basic stuff to people. I don't know, but to a lot of people. But to me, this was life-changing stuff. back in the day. And this is one of the way I sometimes I'm better at putting these together and sometimes I'm not, but this ability to not fall behind on a goal and to allow yourself, you're building this out to where it's not a soul crushing thing. It's not a to-do list that you got to check things off. And it's not something that you have to do. You're building, okay, minimum, I can do this. And you're going to mess up. Sometimes you're not even going to hit the minimum. And some days you're going to far exceed the maximum that you build for yourself. But the point of this is to build yourself a life that you could be forgiving of yourself and recognizing that you're a person, and you're going to have days where you don't feel like doing it all, or weeks or months. And then there's going to be times when you can do it all and more. And to build that flexibility in your life with the goal of, at least when I'm hitting my minimums, I'm not falling behind. Maybe an emergency happens with my business and I have to put 3 things at a minimum, don't fall behind on while I fix this thing in business. And that happens. But because I've done the minimum, I've built time by going to the minimum side of everything. I've now built time that I can focus on whatever thing needs to be focused on. You know, like that's, were you going to say something? I realize I've continued.
No, I was just listening to you.
That's really one of the big things for that. You know, you can see on my business, I've got focus on strain development, ship weekly orders, ship monthly Patreons. I meant to put quarterly Patreons on that, but it's kind of weird. So people are paying monthly, so they get the monthly rewards, but I ship quarterly. So I've got to figure out ship monthly Patreons quarterly, right? Work 8 new strains per week. What I mean is through Pilot Farm, work 8 new strains per week through Pilot Farm. So I've got all these breeding programs going. The 8 strains would be really my minimum that I'm building right now. I want to make 8 spawn masters every week that then go into fruiting blocks every week that then go into the grow room every week. So on a fire breeding day, I might do 20 or a week. And that's something... Actually, reasonably 20, I don't think I can do, because even if I did 10 blocks a piece at 20, that'd be 200 blocks, and we're only running about 120 blocks a week right now. But
you know, I wonder if this is why I kind of feel like I'm floundering. It has been so long since I updated mine. You know, and
that's another thing too, is that sometimes you'll find that your goals don't really change, and so she's not updated hers because her goals have changed, but they weren't changing for a while, right? I did the same thing.
Well, when we had so many employees, I had actually switched my board up to include some more peripheral things, like wish list things that I had wanted to achieve for quite some time, but I hadn't, because I didn't have, like, we were always in kind of a fight, you know, and flight mode kind of thing. And being able to hire someone in to come and help, it gave me enough free time to be able to explore things like teaching myself digital design. And I'm now very proficient in Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and InDesign and all those things. And that at one point was a dream that was on that board that I hadn't accomplished yet. So, I mean, it is, and I have seen this in other creators and other YouTubers, and we shared this with our own employees at one point. And I do remember it was kind of a neat thing for them. Like they were like, hey, this is cool. I definitely want to. I
don't know how many of them kept up with it, but I know Charles does it.
Yeah.
Ben and Stephanie, or Ben has done it. I don't know if Stephanie's done it at all with us, but like Samantha and I have done this pretty regularly. But it's something that I think both had let slide a little bit in the past with this, where my goals hadn't changed in a while until I got sick. And now, like with the new year, I'm like, this is a great time to revamp all this stuff. But this, I mean, we did this.
Yeah, going into 2025. Yeah.
I mean, you can see up here on the top left, life priorities, second quarter of 2018. So, you know, that's actually when this file was created, but I just update this one. So what I need to do is copy it down to another page and just print the bottom page each time. That way I could watch it. Because nowadays, I wish I had kept all of my previous versions.
You have a bunch of written ones in notebooks. I do remember. And I have mine as well.
I think they're in the filing cabinet somewhere.
Yeah.
But
I will say, seeing you do this on Google Doc, there's another person that I follow. Her name is Catnip, and she does a lot of like kawaii planner stuff, and she's really good at creating small little like plushies and creatures, and she's created a whole like business with characters, and it's actually something that I tried to convince Andrew to do. And he came up with Dr. Solarian, and so I was like, we want to be a company with character, and then have these characters that represent different, sides of the business kind of thing. So she recommended using Notion the first few years that I watched her, just to kind of plan out her quarterly goals as in her personal life as well as a business owner. And then this year, she recommended something called Milanote, and I actually have it pulled up here, but I would like to see us transfer to Milanote, because it's like a whole different software
I'll
game
take a look
going
at it at
on,
some
and you
point.
can do pictures along with, like, you could go grab pictures of what your goal is,
I can do that here too, where I insert image.
and is well, yeah, but it's just a little easier to do it. The interface on this one is more intuitive to me. And
Well, maybe we can pull your account up next time. I can show you how to do it if you'll, because I can pull you up on your secondary camera there if you follow the link, and then you can screen share.
Oh, that's
and show it.
neat.
So
Well, cool.
we can do that at some point.
She showed on her screen share. She showed where she had a mood board from 3 years prior, and it was other photos that she had found on Pinterest and made this mood board with. And then in 2024, she had replaced every single photo with where she had accomplished the goal that she had put on there. And I was like,
that's kind of cool.
oh, that's the ultimate, let's do this.
Yeah, for sure. I like that a lot.
And can you think back when you grew that first kit that you bought?
I can remember it clearly in my head.
And can you imagine having a picture on your mood board, right, of an entire grow room, and then replacing that picture with your own grow room?
That would be neat. Yeah, I mean, I can for sure do that. I mean, I have the original. I have a picture of the original kit. The mushrooms look awful. I remember being so proud of them, but now I look at them like that was just awful.
It was literally the mushroom kit that we had purchased on a
plate,
odd-in porcelain plate that just had patterns that didn't match anything else that I found at Goodwill. And then it had skewer sticks, and then we had saran wrap to keep in the humidity. But it had
no air exchange, so it was like the stems on it were like 4 inches long, and the caps were like an inch.
We've come a really long way.
Yeah. But yeah, you can see like on here for lifting, for physical training. See, that's the thing. Like, to be a physically competent person, to be a healthy person, you need to make it a priority. The problem is that that actually takes up a chunk. So if you're doing 3 things and physical training is one of those things, you have to plan. You have to plan that into your life. Otherwise, it's always going to get shunted to the side. So like right now, I've got lift weights 4 times a week. I lift weights Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I want at least one of those per week to be a cardio session to help with my lung development, where I've had so much damage to my lungs. I'm now in a recovery. So right now, tomorrow, it was going to be tonight, but tomorrow Charles is going to come over and we're going to do swings. And swings suck. I hate them. I've always hated them. But it's some of the best cardio I've ever come across. So
that's something I'd like to point out to you, is that Charles introduced this to us. Mm-hmm. We bought in.
Yep.
We have a network of individuals who have bought in, and then we actively hold each other accountable to push toward our goals as well.
Yeah. Charles called me today and was like, "Hey, is it okay if we work out tomorrow?" Basically. So I was like, "Yep, I will." That means I'm lifting heavy tonight, which is good because I like lifting heavy. I hate swings, but But the good news about swings is it's a very compressed amount of work, and it's a lot of work in a compressed amount of time. So, but I want to reduce eating out by meal planning my week out. So, I want to be able to pick my dinner each night. Right now, I'm still eating out because the McRib is here, and that's my guilty pleasure. So a couple times a week, like today, to help gear me up with the podcast, I ate a McRib, that kind of thing. So, and then on business rework, this is something I know this. I've got business twice, but the rework is literally a completely separate thing. I want to rework my website, so I'm putting that into the rework. I want to do at least a daily check-in to see how our web admin's doing about building stuff, kind of help direct them in the place I want to go. So, that's something I want to make sure that I do a lot better for this year. Daily social post, and I want to make sure that I'm using AI to help maximize my reach. So using the AI to split my videos down from the long form content like this live stream, I can feed that to the AI and it cuts it into smaller 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, 10-minute clips kind of thing. And then hand off and close up unnecessary projects. You guys know me, at least those of you who've been watching me for a while, and you know that I tend to diversify, we'll say. And I'm not always good about diversifying into a project and then keeping that project going. So what I want to do is follow my own rule, which is find people to hand projects off to around here or whatever, and then close up unnecessary projects that are not serving my mission right now. And this is another thing that we do. I'm not going to show mine. It's a very personal thing to me, but I do write a mission statement for the year. So I did that earlier before. The mission statement helps me to realize my life priorities, but my mission statement, being things like I want to build a business up to this point. I want to, grow closer together with my family, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, I'm not going to share the full thing with you, but through that, writing a little paragraph about what I envision, I can then pick out my targets for the year or for the quarter or for the year and then break it into quarters and then break those into daily, weekly, and monthly steps to get to there. So it's the whole art of working backwards, right? The same thing that we talked about with the mushrooms, where we want people to grow mushrooms and then work their way back to lab work rather than from lab work into it. Because
that can seem very daunting, and a lot of people
will
give up before they even get started.
It's the hardest way to learn because you have to learn all the theory without learning the application. And most people learn application based, right? So if you can break down your targets, I've heard this before. Humans are target acquisition platforms. Pretty much everything about whether you consider us a godly design or an evolutionary design, everything about our design is focus, find target, pull back, create tension, release tension, hit target. Mm-hmm. That's what we are. So this is following that same process of seek, find target, build tension, release tension, target, hit, right? And all of this is as natural a human process as possible. But we humans are target, goal-oriented creatures. Everything about us, like, other than the fact that, hunter-gatherers had a lot more free time, when they would go on the hunt or the forage or whatever they were doing, they had those targets that they were aiming for. You can say even down to the point when we were tree dwellers, able to throw stones at a lion to scare it off, right? Target acquired, freedom achieved, that kind of thing. So, Niall, what, you have McRib? I miss the McRib. Oh my gosh, I didn't know they had it in Australia. Yeah, they totally have it. I know it's the worst thing in the world for you. McChicken is good, but I can't eat a McRib. I don't actually like McDonald's, but I love the McRib. I don't know what it is, guys. It's one of those, I know it's gross. I know it. I know it's a gross thing to eat. And yet I love it.
So my mama called and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm going through the drive-thru and getting Andrew's favorite thing in the world." And she's like, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And I told her, and she's like, "You know what those are made out of, right?" And
don't care. They could be pig buttholes. Don't care.
Basically.
Pig buttholes and scrotums. I don't care.
Oh, gross.
They're so good. It's so good. It's worth it.
In fact, I kind of evacuate and go to a different room whenever he eats it.
Here, I'll stop sharing this. That was just something I wanted to share with you guys, was how I work with those, but how we do those priority building. That's helped me a lot in business. Like, you can break that down on a business and a personal level, right? Like, during Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I follow this set of rules. My other time, my off time, I have priorities based on this, What's up? Doing transfers at the moment. Thanks for the background commentary. You're very welcome, Spormuse. The camera in the grow room would be awesome, although it could backfire. You'll forget and be picking your nose or let one rip or say something personal. It's a good and bad idea.
I will
say
would just
have music playing.
It is I don't really have the need to pick my nose, but I do have the need to scratch my nose in the grow room. And I think it's because I have that full face mask.
Do you not just... Oh, the mask on. Gotcha.
And so I'm just like, I caught myself the other day. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to do this since I have gloves on. And I'm just going to do this. And then I like put my arm against the mask.
Which I ended up getting... I'll let you guys know. I don't think anything's going to come of it, so don't call me a conspiracy theorist, but there's this bird flu scare going around. So I went ahead and bought full face respirators for every member of my family, even though Samantha and I already have them, with some N95 cartridges, etc. But beyond that, which is it's just security theater, really. I mean, you're never going to completely get away from a virus, but the idea being that we'll have at least some air protection on some things. The real thing I'm worried about is people getting... I'm not worried so much about the virus as I am worried about the scare. It was the same thing I was worried with COVID. So, a little bit of extra toilet paper, a little extra beans, Band-Aids, whatever you need.
Beans, Band-Aids.
Well, buy your medication a little bit ahead of time. If they try to do a lockdown, even a soft one, it's going to mess with stuff. So get your toilet paper or whatever other things you're worried that you're not going to have. I'm not saying go crazy. Don't spend every last dime you have on it. If you got to pay rent, you pay your rent. Don't be buying emergency supplies when you can't afford today. But I would go ahead and just put some stuff back, some canned chicken or something.
This is the anti-nose picking mask extraordinaire.
You see Samantha's got her bind rune, and then she's written Samantha across the front. Mine has...
Nobody else can steal my mask.
Mine has runes written all the way around the top and stuff around. But not within my field of vision.
I don't know what to tell you about the tooting, Ro. Good luck with that.
Yeah, well, you could put some polyfill in there, maybe. Mushroom live streams of incubation fruiting rooms is a great idea. I'd be all over that. Maybe not incubation. Not much happens in incubation. But I thought about setting up a security camera feed and then putting little Wi-Fi cameras that people can swivel and stuff, just kind of around the op. And then I was like, I'm not going to do that. People already see my face enough. I started growing mushrooms 3-ish years ago, watching your videos. We are closing our hydro store this month. Spent last Sunday moving in my lab, listening to your podcast and Ed's Happy New Year. Oh, Happy New Year to you too. You're closing your hydro store. Does that mean that you're closing down completely in mushrooms and stuff, or you're closing down that and then moving into mushrooms? Civilizations probably build from old civilizations that are pretended not to have existed, such as the civilization before the Great Flood. I've been hearing a lot about that. Something to do with Graham Hancock, I think maybe his name, that I saw something about that. Question: have you ever used lard from unsalted beef roast tallow for agar? I have not, but I've heard of people doing that. But I've not ever done it. Michael Meacham, I'm way late. I'm leaving in potato, carrots, and green beans for carbs. So you're making like a beef roast and then straight up, I like the idea. Let me know how it goes. Do you want me to send you some concrete bugs? That's what we call them here. Well, where's here? And are they unique? I don't raise pill bugs anymore. I used to. What I was saying earlier, I used to raise spiders. I went every time my mom and dad would go through peanut butter. They would wash the jars out to keep lard in, and I would go steal those jars before they put lard in them, and then I would keep little house spiders and stuff and jumping spiders, and I would bring the males to the females and let them do their little thing, and then I would put the egg sacs outside, let them hatch, recapture them, rebreed them next year.
I originally thought that you were talking about the garden spiders on the back porch.
I did that too. So just a few years ago, when we lived at the old farm that you guys saw on the beginning of the channel, my back deck had a greenhouse hoop on it.
There were 33 of them.
I had 33 female
and our oldest son, bless his heart,
orb weavers. The riding spiders is what we call them here growing up.
I've also heard them called banana spiders.
That's a different orb weaver.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the one that grows out in Florida, I think. They literally are long and cylindrical, kind of like a banana. But there's also the giant orb weaver, which is not what we have. We don't even have the biggest of the orb weavers. Poor Collier would die in Florida, but
they're big to me.
I used to breed them, and I would feed them butterflies and things. Go out and catch butterflies and feed my favorite females, and then they would lay their egg sacs, and I'd protect their egg sacs from different bugs and stuff. And so I mean, I've always just bred stuff. I bred flowers as a kid, and we breed peppers now. Oh, actually, it reminds me, we need to. We like to start our peppers Christmas Day, and it's past Christmas, so we got to start our peppers now. Right there's
Andrew, we ought to do it behind us that way.
That's what I was thinking. Is we would put it right.
You guys can see them grow
right there, and then the peppers can start off. You know, people can watch them grow. I need to renew my fishing license. Yeah, I need to renew mine too. We all tend to take family and time for granted. I'm in a position where I've made a change to spend as much time as I can with being my kids before they get older and disappear with their new families. Yeah, I mean, Collier and Lily are already talking about getting married. And Collier's an adult, and I'm sitting there going, I've not bonded with this kid nearly as much as I wanted to. And I feel like I've actually spent more time with my kids than a lot of people have. But it's still not been enough. It's just not been enough. Do I ever think there'll ever be a MushRune? Maybe in France.
There should be.
In France, there might be. Or French Canada. 80s, my Chevelle, and a McRib. There you go. Oh, that Szechuan sauce from the 90s? Rick and Morty talks about it. Do you remember that? The plum sauce?
At McDonald's?
Yeah, the Mulan movie. They only ever made it then. And that stuff I remember loving it. It was better than sweet and sour.
We did not eat out growing up. Like, my family, I actually marrying into you in your family, I was amazed by how much you guys ate out.
Which is funny because we don't even eat out that much comparatively. Now we do. My family eats out way more than they used to.
No, you went into storage and you cracked canned goods open that you canned yourself, that you picked out of the garden.
Samantha's family, I would told Samantha's mom, I was like, I used to think I was country, but then I met you all, and she went, honey, yeah, you're not country. And I was like,
unless you live 3 hours away from the nearest hospital. You know?
I grew up.
We would go to the grocery store once a month to get basics. Like,
I grew up roaming the hills. I grew up like out in the cow fields and the mountains and the hills. And my cousin and I would take a backpack full of stuff with apples and bread and stuff, build a fire, roast apples on sticks. We did all of this stuff. I grew up kind of country. To be fair, my grandfather was a scientist, but we were 10 minutes from Walmart, but we never went there. We were constantly...
Granted, this town didn't have Walmart.
It didn't until
forever. And it was a dry county until not long ago.
Yeah, just a few years ago. We just now got alcohol. Which is when people like come here for mentorships, they're like, hey, where I can get some weed? No, man.
Now, Dad lived in the city, so I did get to experience some stuff like that. And we would stop by McDonald's, but not often. I do not remember the plum sauce at all. I do remember when Mulan came out. But, yeah. Anyway.
Beans and toilet paper go together. They do, because beans are the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you poop. We are finding ancient cities underwater, which I find very interesting. It pretty much proves water levels rising isn't a recent issue, as claimed. I would have to look into this. I don't know anything about it, but I know that I've seen that shirt. Shit just keeps getting older. It's like, oh, civilization's older. There's some axe I saw that they found that's like testing 90,000 years old earlier than we thought that an axe of that style should test. Something like that. Golden orb weavers. We had them down in MS2. Golden orb weavers are beautiful. Yeah, I'm in Florida and we have those spiders. They are awesome. They are super cool. I think they're beautiful and they're not aggressive. I've got some beautiful footage of them. I'm going to get that sauce, Morty. 4 more seasons to get that sauce. That is one of my favorite shows. I know the Rick and Morty bros are looked down upon by people, but I love that show.
Who has a plum farm around here? We need to make this.
So my family had one. We used to have Collier's Corner.
You guys had a general store too, right?
Yeah, you had my family's orchard, the general store, the house that my grandfather was born in, and then just like an open field on the other side. And at that corner is where my Gigi and Andrew had. They got the first car in the valley, the first radio in the valley, the first refrigerator in the valley. So apparently people from all over Dumpling Valley would come to Collier's Corner to listen to the radio on Sunday and drink cold drinks from the refrigerator. So you'd have cold Coca-Colas while listening to the radio. And they would open the windows, and people would sit outside on the lawn and have picnics and listen to Gigi and great grandfather Andrew radio.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But I got 3 plum trees that I started 2 years ago. Should start seeing plums 2 years from now. Ours started producing like year 3, I think, when we had them.
Yeah.
But then the rabbits killed them.
In hindsight, I really think that was the beaver.
I bet you're right, because the beaver killed the redwoods. Or the
So we planted so many fruit trees and a bunch of redbud trees.
redbuds.
And
Yeah, there we go.
we thought it was rabbits because it would just be a ring all the way around the bottom. But now looking back, because I caught the little darn thing.
Carrying off one of our trees.
Carrying off our redbud tree.
Oh my gosh. And it killed off one of my most beautiful. So we had a redbud tree.
We had dogwoods.
We had a redbud tree. So our house from the yard in the front was way higher than the yard in the back. It was a steep incline down to a pond, if you guys remember. The back of the house by the basement door had our pasteurizer. So all winter, we would be running 2 or 3 days a week. And so all winter, we would have a cloud of steam there and then warm nutrient-rich water running out of the steamer down the hill. And
those trees grew exceptionally well.
all those redbuds I planted down below that area grew way better than anything else ever did. And then we had broadleaf plantain plants that had leaves on like this big around. Yeah,
it was enormous.
They were huge. So we had that.
That's where we had the compost rolling bin.
Oh yeah, we had the compost rolling bin, and that would drip too. So we had just this perfect mix of constant warm water, fog, steam. I mean, and just like all winter.
We had a little microclimate going on.
The broadleaf plantain, it was under cover, and it would grow all winter long. Like everything else would be frozen solid, and that whole warm spot. Because even when the pasteurizer was off, the blocks would be sitting in there, and they would just be radiating heat, right? And so like things never froze there, and like they created this crazy thing.
Well, not only did we have the beaver, we had a snapping turtle, and she would come and lay her eggs.
I liked her, yeah.
And it was funny too, because I felt like they were getting a bit territorial with one another, and so whenever you saw her, you wouldn't see the beaver.
It's true.
And then whenever you saw the beaver, she would be nowhere to be found.
Which, to be fair, she'd only come up typically in the spring to lay eggs. Or is it the fall to lay eggs? I can't remember.
See her floating around in the pond, though. And our kids would go swimming down there.
Oh, gosh. I used to go swimming down there all the time.
Gosh.
And then I went fishing and caught a snapping turtle that was about as big around as my chest. I was like, I may not be swimming here anymore.
Turtle soup.
I mean, so... By the way, Charles gets really mad when he finds out that we fish for turtles and stuff sometimes. To him, turtles are like... I mean, turtles are kind of a sacred animal to me. But to him, I don't know, he's got something about him where he doesn't like people killing him. But turtle is so good. Turtle soup is so good. Groundhog, too. I will say groundhog is probably my favorite food.
Yeah, the stories Grandma tells, and the stories I remember my great-grandmother telling with turtle soup and eating groundhog, and I don't know, long lineage of mountain folk, and you ate what you had to survive.
Her grandmother used to
That's my sentiment on it.
To bring her possum. She's like, I miss possum. Will you bring me possum? So I trapped possum, and when I trapped the possum, I went out there at night, and I shone my light over it, and it sheened with oil. Like it had an oil sheen all the way across it, and it stank so bad, which knowing now that's a defensive mechanism. But I was like, I just released it. I'm like, I'm not bringing this. I'm not cleaning this and bringing it to Susie.
Well, you talk about country. My family is very, very country, and there's zero shame in it. And you survive no matter what. And Dad used to buy his jeans and school clothes with he would sell pelts and hides, and
so yes, I would like most people that I meet out in the world. Like if I leave where I live now, people are like, "Oh, he's a country hillbilly," but but the hillbillies around here are like, "Oh, he's a geek." Like I'm the geek hillbilly. But then when I go to Samantha's family, they're like, there is no hillbilly. I'm a city person. And what's funny is I'm not city at all. I've never lived in a city. I don't even like visiting cities most of the time because I get so claustrophobic feeling. I will go. Like Oklahoma City was fun to go to the festival and stuff. But even then, I'm just like cities make me feel claustrophobic.
When Dad goes boar hunting, I used to go deer hunting with my grandfather. We would hunt mushrooms. Like it's just a part of life, you know, and that aspect. And I know I'm probably infuriating some vegans at some point that watch this, but
I think we pretty much we've run all the sensitive ones off. All the ones that are here, at least, probably don't judge too harshly.
And I'm fascinated by the different ways of life, you know, based on your ecosystem, based on your geographic region, based on your family cultural values. Like speaking to Jackie and Tristan that come from a Cherokee background, like this is honoring the land. This is honoring your culture. This is honoring
they're real big
your
on
family,
honoring your ancestry and stuff.
You know. But anyway, I know some people make fun and they're like, "Oh, you're silly, you know, mountain folk are weird, whatever." But I don't know. I'm very proud of my heritage.
Is mosaic concrete good for a grow room floor? Pretty much no, because of the grout. That said, it can work. You'll just want to make sure you disinfect it really well. I think it'll work okay. You'll want to use, instead of like squeegee, instead of like a long-handled squeegee like I use for our room a lot of times, you'll want to use probably a long-handled brush. And you'll want to brush that grout occasionally. The big thing you don't want is, grout creates a lot of surface area, which is good for bacteria. And as your spores land in it, they'll grow a little bit, degrade. The bacteria will eat it. It provides a food source for it. That provides a food source for flies. Flies then go and spread it. This is the problem with gravel floors a lot of times. What a lot of people have done that I've worked with when they have gravel floors is to lay down some sort of like rubber matting and then lay down plastic and then just replace the plastic every couple of years. But grout like tile floor, you can probably just get away with a good scrubbing and bleaching.
Like Devin said that he meant to answer it in Discord earlier. It depends on the floor is sealed, and if it's sealed, you can pressure wash. I don't see why not.
Gotcha.
I mean, when we got into this warehouse and started building the grow rooms, Ben took a lot of time to seal the floor.
Resin coat.
Yeah, and in fact, we had to do it twice because the temperature caused some bubbles and a few other complications. So we had to actually deep clean it, seal it, strip that off because it didn't work right, and then redo it all again. So it kind of got a double dose, but and we do clean and reseal that from time to time. But we've seen people with gravel grow rooms that are like outdoors. They would put gravel down, and it would work well for the first few months, but after time, it just became
the gravel. So like it would work great, and then their yields would start to go down, and a lot of that's from mold spore blooms, bacterial blooms, things like that in the floor. But a lot of people don't realize that mushrooms are actually sensitive to the bioload in the air, or many mushrooms. I don't know that all mushroom species are, but at least oysters are.
If you're fortunate enough to start off on a concrete floor, that is really truly a blessing. But if you can't, try to put back the funds and work your way toward that. That has been by far the best way we've seen
concrete.
Yeah.
Yep, slick concrete. 3 years
Sealed.
for fruit trees usually to see if they're any good. Got it. Groundhogs and rabbits are awesome. I do like rabbit. I like rabbit a lot. And with them talking about the bird flu is in like 70% of cow herds. I don't remember the pigs. I don't remember how many chicken farms that were tested positive for it. If they start going through and killing all these things to slow the spread, meat prices are going to go up. I'm going to wish I had my rabbits back. My dad's family farm was on Lakeshore near Cherokee Dam, Oakland. Okay, yeah, I know exactly where you're at.
Some of my old stomping grounds.
I go off that direction to go trout fishing because there's a stream that runs back there. That's stocked pretty regularly, but that's got some really good trout. We have a little plague problem with groundhog lice. Ugh. Do you guys have groundhogs like we have groundhogs? Is it the same thing? Is the Mongolian groundhog? Mongolian groundhog.
And looking at the different kinds of squirrels. It's
the same thing. You guys have the same thing we have. They're so tasty, man. I kind of hate it because I really feel a connection with the groundhogs and the gophers, but oh my gosh, it's some of the best meat I've ever had my entire life off the grill. The first time I ever had it, my youth minister, as a kid, grilled it out, and then after that, my grandfather would hunt them because they dig holes around his farm, and like cattle would break their legs and stuff in the holes. So he had a dog named Rusty, and Rusty would go into the hole. He had all kinds of scars all over his face from doing this, but he would go in, and Gramps would sit out there with like a 22 rifle, and then Rusty would go in and grab the groundhog and pull him out, and then Gramps would shoot the groundhog. Usually give it to somebody, but as I got older, he started giving it to me just because it was really, really good. But oh man, 2 hours and 14 minutes. Oh my goodness.
It goes by a different name.
It doesn't?
Jake, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it goes by a
butcher
Mongolian name.
Tarbagan? I'm so sorry.
A tarbagan.
It almost has like a
we
black
have a disease
face.
called Tarvagan Tekhal, which I assume is the Black Plague. Fair enough.
But yeah, look at the coloring on that one. Like it's way different. Ours,
They're colored differently, but they look in the face. They look almost the same.
I feel like that's a bit more pointed, almost badger-like in a way. But
Maybe.
I don't know. Ours is like a red versus this kind of gray, buff black. Anyway, that's another one of my favorite things is going and seeing what the same animal essentially looks like across multiple ecosystems. Like I just think it's cool as heck.
Yeah, Aussie. So ours are spelled with O, right? Opossums. So we have the North American possum with a silent O. You guys have possums, which are different.
Woodchucks.
You guys are more like the land of marsupials, anyways. I think possum's the only large marsupial we have. Maybe the only marsupial we have. I love possums. People used to call me Possum. That was my nickname for a long time. Before I got in the mushroom world and everyone started calling me Mossy. Like when I was in college and stuff, everyone called me Possum. And I wrote a bike that I called Awesome. So when people would see me riding around campus or around town, they'd be like, oh, look, there's Awesome Possum. So, but... I
feel like the ears on ours are more pronounced.
Okay. I'm off this subject already.
I'm still hyper fixated and focused on it.
Reindeers, hogs, bears, they're all good. Oh, so bear meat is one that I love. I like a good bear roast, but I'm not real big on killing bears. I don't know what it is about bears. Like there's something about eating them that makes
bears
me...
are for you like turtles are for Charles.
Yeah, to be fair, the name I was given by Jack's grandmother, Yonegi, translates to bear, and there's a lot more to it, but bear, that is my name, so I guess I feel bad. I feel a little kinship. But reindeer are super, which I don't know if I've ever had reindeer, but like deer. I imagine a reindeer tastes very similarly to deer. Venison is my favorite meat. I make a homemade venison teriyaki where I make the teriyaki sauce myself and everything.
A bear was a big thing, and there's stories too.
Mm-hmm. Well, the venison teriyaki, I make all that myself and the kids. It's like Aislinn was literally telling me, like, Dad, how come you haven't made venison teriyaki in a while? I'm like, I haven't had backstrap in a while. I need some backstrap or some leg meat that I can cut up. It's really best for the toughest cuts because I can take those tough cuts of deer and boil them in that sugary teriyaki sauce until they're just soft and tender. Just simmer it until it's like sticky. And then you pour that over rice, or rice with a bed of cooked vegetables. Then you put your deer meat and your teriyaki sauce over it. And then you put typically pan-fried mushrooms or like pickled mushrooms. But we do a lot of pickled on top as well. So that's one of my favorite ways to eat deer. And then hogs. I mean, hogs are beef. I'd say for my family, beef is probably the meat that we eat. My family comes, my ancestry comes from beef herders. Around here, we were beef herders and whiskey makers, corn farmers. But you got your corn from a jug, not from the field. Unless you were cooking it, in which case, like people, distiller's paste is something that a lot of people like. I've used that before. It's basically just if you've got like a steam leak or something like that, you can use an old trick called distiller's paste, where you put cornmeal, self-rising flour, and water together, get it nice and sticky, and then you wrap that around your steam leak, and it cooks on, and it makes a seal for your pipe. So I've done that so many times for like this run. I just need to get through this run. There's a little distiller's paste.
And you'd lick too.
Well, it makes it come off your finger. So put your distiller's paste on there and you wrap it around. And if it'll form a new leak a lot of times. So then you put more distiller's paste on it until you've created this ring of like bread. And the bread just cooks on until it's hard as a rock. But over hog, I think beef is probably beef and corn is the. It was beef until we came to America. And when we came to America, we found corn from the natives, and so then it became beef and corn. But
wild game was big. Look up Greasy Creek, Kentucky, and
that's right here.
the bar story.
The bar.
It's also known as Laurel Creek.
Sun-dried possum. Awesome Possum sounds cool. One of my fave bands back in the day was Sun-Dried Possum. I've never heard of Sun-Dried Possum. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, look up the bar story with the Greasy Creek and Old Man John Shell, and that lets you know how country my family is. That was my great grandfather, somewhere down the line.
Venison with some thick soup and potatoes with some mushrooms and rice is the best. I made a beef roast with enoki mushrooms, potatoes, and the enoki gives it a nice thick. I also put a lot of maitake powder. I powdered about half a pound of dried maitake, which is probably quite a bit more than a pound of maitake, but that stuff thickened that soup good. I love that. Maitake is so good to cook with, especially in powder form. A lot of people don't powder their mushrooms enough, but I love finding ways to just stuff more mushrooms in the meals where my kids won't notice it. Especially my daughter. My daughter, if she knows that there's mushrooms in the meal, she'll start looking for them. So,
it's all the more reason to powder.
Sam's maitake meal looked so good. I'll have to remember which one that was. She's done a lot of
on the Instagram.
oh yeah, that was really good. Fave way to eat fish. Okay, it depends on the season. I would say my favorite fish to eat is trout. If we're talking about like stuff that we catch, I prefer seafood over freshwater food, but I love freshwater. If it comes from the water, I pretty much love it. But like let's say we're talking salt water, just so that Chilean sea bass or rockfish, I think is what it's called. They renamed it Chilean sea bass because the name before whatever it was called, they were like, oh, it won't sell well. That's some of the best fish I've ever had. Even frozen, it's some of the best stuff I've ever had. I don't even season it. I literally just take a lump of the flesh, put it in a glass pan, and put it in the oven. Roast it until it's barely cooked. You'll stick it with a fork, and fat will literally come out. But trout, for freshwater, I love a good cold water trout, and I love to put it on the grill, skin on, lemon pepper. Skin on, packed lemon pepper, pull it off, eat it.
Make the tail super crunchy.
Yes. Tail crunch. Like tails, tail fins are candy. Super crunchy tails.
In my family, it was always like a catfish. Fried catfish was a big thing.
I love catfish, and in particular, where I live, the catfish is a really good eating fish. Primarily because where I live, the ecosystem is such that there's not great bottom feeding. So most of the catfish we have are like they're feeding off shoals of fish. So like they're literally like people come here to fish for striped bass. And striped bass like to swim in schools, and they love to be down in the cold water. So in the summer, they go down deep. The catfish live off these bass, the striped bass, and they are such a clean tasting catfish compared to like some places. Catfish will taste muddy. Not these catfish. You'll get huge 80-pound catfish. I mean, that's a big freaking fish. So you're talking more likely you're going to get a couple pounds. But I know guys that run these trout lines, they'll get 40 to 80-pound catfish. And we have some of the best fishing in the world, hands down. We have people that travel, like summertime, you'll see boats that have Japanese, Korean, European scripts of different types, like Arabic. I saw Arabic last year. People come here to go bass fishing.
And there's a bow
fishing
competition, and there's and bluegill is huge around here too.
Oh my god, bluegill is so good.
Yeah.
Give me a mess of bluegill and frog legs, and I'm happy. It's some of my favorite stuff.
I'll never forget the first time I cooked frog legs.
Paddlefish is good.
I jumped all over the place.
Yeah, I remember that at camp. Yeah, I remember that. Snake is good too, but it's too much cleaning. So. Gar, I love gar. Catfish is really, really good. Paddlefish. But paddlefish is hard. You got to trawl for them. And then,
Did your family ever cook katydids?
No, but Collier and I for years cooked. Collier Brody and I used to cook grasshoppers all the time.
I will not touch those. I won't touch the katydids either.
People, I've not seen people eat katydids, but I've seen people eat cicadas.
Cicadas?
Mm-hmm. I've seen people eat cicadas, but katydids, there's not any meat on them hardly.
Okay.
I don't. So Devin said, "Don't eat saltwater catfish from down on the coast." Well, definitely not the same. Interesting. When I worked at the fish hatchery, at the saltwater fish hatchery, we had eel-tailed cats from, I think they're an Australian line of catfish. I think they're also called coral cats, maybe. I always wanted to eat them. They looked so tasty, but those were my favorite fish to take care of. Those guys they look like such happy little derps. I loved them. He didn't breed them though. Hornpout is as close as I can get. To brookies? What is hornpout? I love the Chilean sea bass. It's my favorite. Yeah, it's speckled trout for the win. Yep. Absolutely. I love trout. Trout is one of my all-time favorites. A lot of people don't like tilapia. I love tilapia. You take tilapia fillets, especially if they've been fed anything green or like insects in their diet. But
the brown bullheads, also known as mudpout, hornpout, or
so
mudcat.
we don't even eat, I don't ever see any brown bullheads here. Everything we catch is like channel cats.
Like the blue channel?
We got the blue catfish and the channel catfish, and then we have a hybrid between, I think that are called blue channels. But hornpout are little catfish. Brookies. Yeah, I was going to say brookies, but I didn't know what hornpout was. I thought maybe hornpout was a different name for brook trout or something like that. But brookies are, I like brookies a lot.
Channel catfish, blue catfish, and the flathead catfish are.
We do have flatheads, yeah. We have flatheads, but I don't. When I see people catch the really big catfish, it's typically flatheads. But I've not seen.
God, I remember noodling with my uncle. Golly, that was.
You can't pay me enough to noodle. I'm not losing a finger.
You'd like reach your whole arm up in the side of the bank. There'd be like this gigantic hole.
Actually,
I was always scared to death. I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna drown. It's gonna suck me in there. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I would probably. Do you freeze dry or dehydrate your mushrooms? Dehydrate. We dehydrate. I don't like freeze drying. Freeze drying does not cook the chitin. And I like 125 degree heat, so a low heat dry for up to 12 hours sometimes. And I want a good cook, not enough to kill your volatiles, your volatile chemicals, molecules in it, but enough to cook the chitin. So, any crawfish? We don't have them here. You guys don't have any sort of crawfish or crawdads? We have them around here, but we're not. It's not famous here. Like you're never gonna find a ton of them. You're gonna have to work really hard to find a mess of them. You'll find the occasional ones.
That's what all the grandkids were tasked with doing.
Right.
And we
You
would
just go there and moving
oftentimes,
rocks and stuff.
yeah, we would oftentimes, just to be facetious with one another, we would sit there and just find one, and the first thing you would do is clip it onto someone.
Put them on his earrings. Yeah.
I never did that.
I didn't either, but I saw people do that a lot. But that's one of my shellfish is like my favorite food of all time. I like anything in a shell typically. I even think like tarantula legs.
You always leave the biggest one. Like you would never. You have to be, whenever you do all of this stuff, you can't just wipe everything out. It's kind of like mushroom hunting. You always leave something.
Well, you're always leaving the mycelial mat behind with the mushrooms, but
yeah, but you take what you need and nothing more.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely people who don't follow that, but yeah. Call them hardheads, and they have barbs on the pectoral and dorsal fins that will sting the hell out of you. Yeah, that's. I think all the ones that we've had have got pretty interesting little barbs on them. I definitely, and they'll walk. They'll get up on their little pectoral fins and they like walk across. Like you put them in the truck bed, and they.
So that's why you pet and squeeze.
Yeah, pet and squeeze back.
Yeah.
And then bash its head against the rock.
Oh gosh! Now we're getting.
Now we might scare some people off. I've never been stung by one. Fingers crossed, I never will be. But I will say that I've gotten my closest by fishing them in the kayak. The kayak, I love, but it definitely, when you get out there in deep water, and I got hooked on something pretty big, and I was like, oh, I'm out here alone. Like, this is kind of fun, but it's kind of scary, too. And be careful with cicadas. You eat Massospora. Yeah, I've definitely seen Massospora on them. I don't think that affects us, though, does it? It might make you... I know it's got like an LSD effect, so mushroom love from Dr. Salamander. Your guy kind of reminds me of my Dr. Solarian. Which, by the way, I was learning about. The Solarian period is when mushrooms, as far as we know, kind of like multicellular fungi, kind of at least evolved to the point that we left a lot of fossils. So you have the Solarian period where you've got those meters tall mushrooms that are taller than like not as tall as trees today, as big trees, but definitely taller than small trees. And they'll have, they were made of like a polypore type material, but they must have lived off some pretty easy to digest stuff, since lignous eating, the white rot fungus, didn't evolve till the end of the Carboniferous period. In fact, they think that's why the Carboniferous period, the time when you had all the giant insects before the dinosaurs, they think that's why it ended, was white rot fungus finally came about and was like starting to eat all of the dead material and the stuff that wouldn't rot down. And it started eating all that stuff and producing CO2, thereby lowering the oxygen levels, which made the insects not able to be as big as they were. But it was like, back then, the oxygen levels were so high, it was toxic to humans. So, so old bio boys will carry a little bat or hammer to smash them on a rock. There you go. We used to fish, you go down to the creek during breeding season for carp, and they want carp gone. They're invasive. They're destroying a lot of ecosystems and stuff. So we go down to like the creeks, and they're swimming upstream to spawn. And man, you can just go in there, walk in and grab them, toss them to someone up on the bank. Someone on the bank can take them, pop them, put them in a pile. You can take as many home as you want, clean them up, take the mud vein out, pack them with some hot pepper or dip them in hot sauce and fry them up. And carp is actually good eating. A lot of people don't think so. Her dad actually taught me that, how to cook them where they're worth eating, because it definitely is a skill. But her dad is country enough, apparently, that carp is something they lived on. So he knows all about it.
Hey, when it's all you got, you figure out how to eat it.
That's right. That's absolutely right. All right, folks. Well, that's where we're going to end it today. I know we kind of devolved into a bunch of other stuff other than mushrooms, but the life priorities, I think, will do you guys well, even if you do it in a business style. Thank you all for joining us, making this a success. Don't forget to use your code. Again, that's code NewYear25. Save 20% off your orders. And that will work on mentorships and consults. And with that, y'all, keep spawning culture.
Keep spawning culture.